Chapter 1367. Lu Xiaoyu unnaturally brushed the hair on her forehead and walked to Simu Yan's side with her body tensed up. Immediately, she spoke in a low voice, "President." Simu Yan nodded his head gently. "President, didn't you say, to let me think about it for a few days, why now?" Lu Xiaoyu lowered her voice and asked timidly. Zi Qianqian glanced at her contemptuously. "It's your blessing that the president likes you. Don't go too far and look at your own status." Zi Qianqian was known as the #1 beauty in the Heavenly Academy with extremely high innate talent. Therefore, she had always been elegant and noble, only to be admired from afar and not to be profaned. In the interclass competition, her gentleness and awareness were used to deceive the other forces. However, beauties always had the capital to be capricious. Zi Qianqian was beautiful and capable. Her unattainable status made people feel more mysterious and fell in love with her. I. Lu Xiaoyu's eyes turned red, bit her lower lip and whispered, "It's not me who wants to be the vice president, why are you getting angry at me? If you want to be the vice president, vent your anger at the president." Lu Xiaoyu was not one to be criticized. Her unceremonious counterattack made Zi Qianqian's face turn extremely ugly. Logically speaking, Lu Xiaoyu had left the faculty council and the vice president position should be taken over by Zi Qianqian. Si Yanmu inexplicably brought Lu Xiaoyu into the faculty council and even handed over the position of vice president to Lu Xiaoyu. This Lu Xiaoyu was just a freshman. Furthermore, he was a freshman with ordinary talent and wasn't considered smart. The reason why she remembered the name Lu Xiaoyu was because, this Lu Xiaoyu was Yiqing Luo's friend. How could Zi Qianqian feel balanced? "You haven't become the vice president yet and you're already putting on airs?" Zi Qianqian approached Lu Xiaoyu, lowered her voice and raised her eyebrows with a faint smile. "Don't think that you can really do whatever you want just because you have the president's support." In this regard, Lu Xiaoyu only wanted to say one sentence, "Miss, are you sick in the head?" Lu Xiaoyu estimated that she must be sick and seriously sick. Seeing the disdain in Lu Xiaoyu's eyes, Zi Qianqian's face darkened. Lu Xiaoyu. His fingers were clenched into a fist. She heard Si Yanmu's low voice, "Qianqian, enough." Hearing the anger in Si Yanmu's tone, Zi Qianqian's heart was filled with grievances but he still kept his mouth shut. He snorted coldly at Lu Xiaoyu, then turned his head to look in the direction of the students who were watching from the sidelines. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu couldn't be bothered to talk to Zi Qianqian as she turned her gaze towards Yiqing Luo and waved at her desperately. Seeing Yiqing Luo again, Lu Xiaoyu was obviously extremely happy. She glanced at Si Yanmu from the corner of her eyes and hesitated for a moment. He still rushed to Yiqing Luo's side. "Qing Luo, I missed you so much." Lu Xiaoyu threw herself into Yiqing Luo's arms, her petite body pressed against Yiqing Luo's. Come to think of it, the two of them had not seen each other for more than half a month. What had happened in this half a month? Lu Xiaoyu and Si Yanmu. Yiqing Luo gently patted Lu Xiaoyu's back, her gaze vigilantly looked at Si Yanmu who was standing not too far away with a smile on his face. She secretly speculated in her heart, was Si Yanmu looking for Lu Xiaoyu because of her? Chapter 1368. Yiqing Luo's hand on her shoulder paused slightly. What happened? Lu Xiaoyu was not a fool. It was impossible for Si Yanmu to look for her and let her be the vice president. She happily thought that it was because of her outstanding ability and her inner beauty that Si Yanmu found out about, so he looked for her. Si Yanmu looked for her, an unremarkable freshman, he must be up to no good. At this moment, Lu Xiaoyu's mood was also extremely complicated. The president suddenly found me and asked me if I was willing to be the vice president of the faculty council. Lu Xiaoyu shook her head. He didn't say why he wanted me to be the vice president. He just repeatedly asked me if I was willing. In other words, Si Yanmu had never contacted Lu Xiaoyu before. But all of a sudden, he came to find Lu Xiaoyu. What was Si Yanmu's purpose? Just because Lu Xiaoyu became the vice president, he could use Lu Xiaoyu to control her? Yiqing Luo had more or less heard the argument between Zi Qianqian and Lu Xiaoyu earlier. Lu Xiaoyu did not promise Si Yanmu to be the vice president of the faculty council. He just replied that he would consider it. But before Lu Xiaoyu could think of an answer, Si Yanmu forcefully announced Lu Xiaoyu's existence to the students. This was obviously forcing Lu Xiaoyu to become the vice president. Such behavior made Yiqing Luo even more suspicious of Si Yanmu's motive. Little Yu wants to become the vice guild leader? Yiqing Luo did not directly voice out her suspicions towards Si Yanmu but asked Lu Xiaoyu about her own thoughts. After all, Si Yanmu had been in the academy for a few years and had also served as the president of the faculty council for a few years. His influence in the academy was not inferior to anyone in the elder council. His reputation was high, his ability was outstanding, and he was loved by everyone in the academy. Such a man, if Yiqing Luo really showed her contempt and suspicion towards Si Yanmu in front of so many people, this group of students would definitely spit on her and drown her in it. She could be willful and disrespect the faculty council with her strength. However, he must not touch the bottom line of the students. Just like in the eyes of the students of the devil class, she was the spiritual pillar of the devil class, the light of hope for the devil class. Once someone questioned her existence, questioned her ability. This had touched the bottom line of the devil class. I'll show you what I can do. Lu Xiaoyu pursed her lips and thought in distress. To be honest, I want to give it a try. After a pause, her frown deepened. But you know me. I'm not smart, and I'm not a rich young lady. I don't understand this kind of thing at all. Yiqing Luo looked at her quietly, her gaze was gentle and her smile was light. He encouraged Lu Xiaoyu to say what he wanted to say. But this is a rare opportunity to learn. Lu Xiaoyu's gaze gradually became firm, and the expression on her face gradually changed from the slightly timid expression to one of radiance. Perhaps I will cause a lot of trouble, but I want to grow to the point where I can help Qing Luo. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly softened. This lass, in the end, he was still thinking about her. Yiqing Luo was very clear. She gradually released the light from her body. The gap between the two of them, who were originally walking side by side, grew wider and wider. Although Lu Xiaoyu did not say it out loud, she was actually very upset in her heart. This was not because of jealousy. On the contrary, Yiqing Luo was able to grow so quickly and release her own light. Lu Xiaoyu was very happy and elated. Only, seeing her good sister becoming stronger, she could not catch up to her good sister's footsteps. Chapter 1369. Because of this, the last time when Yiqing Luo invited Lu Xiaoyu to join the World Mercenary Group, Lu Xiaoyu rejected. It wasn't that Lu Xiaoyu didn't want to join. But she wasn't willing to drag Yiqing Luo down. This time, the position of Faculty Council's vice president gave her a good learning opportunity. If she could do the vice president's position well, she would definitely be able to help Yiqing Luo. Then go and do it. Yiqing Luo smiled as she caressed her head. Xiaoyu wants to learn, then agree to the president's request. But Lu Xiaoyu's eyelids drooped. Yiqing Luo had a few conflicts with the faculty council and she was the clearest about it. Even Master Guiyu had created a huge ruckus in the faculty council. If she agreed to become the faculty council's vice president, wouldn't that be betraying Yiqing Luo? No buts. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she stopped her words. Don't you want to grow and help me? Following that, she lowered her voice to a volume that only the two of them could hear and said, I don't have anyone in the faculty council. If you're the vice president of the faculty council, the students of the devil class will have more freedom in the academy. Lu Xiaoyu was stunned as her pupils widened. Not waiting for her to cry out in shock, Yiqing Luo had already rubbed her head, as though she was a big sister, placating her. Just do according to what Xiaoyu has in mind, you only need to remember one point. Me, devil class, will be your backing. Lu Xiaoyu pursed her lips as her eyes glistened with tears. She was touched, but I'm afraid, I can't do it well. I'm not smart and have no innate talent. Nonsense. Yiqing Luo interrupted Lu Xiaoyu's self-deprecation. Xiaoyu, do you know what your biggest strength is? Lu Xiaoyu had a blank look. It's your persistence and unyielding faith. Yiqing Luo smiled. Do you still remember the first time we were at the freshman training grounds? All the freshmen had given up on running, only you persisted in running the entire course. After that, for all the training, you will persist in completing every single task. Yiqing Luo's smile became warmer. You're great, much better than what you imagined. Lu Xiaoyu's eyes instantly turned red. I will definitely work hard. She clenched her fists tightly and turned around. Facing Si Yenmu, she bowed and said, President, in the future, please guide me. Si Yenmu's eyes were warm, he smiled and nodded. Welcome to the Faculty Council, Vice President. Lu Xiaoyu bent her waist even lower. I will try my best not to cause trouble for the President. Hearing the incessant chatter, Yiqing Luo helplessly laughed out as she walked forward to help Lu Xiaoyu up. Her charming eyes slightly lifted, and looked into Boss Yenmu's eyes. President, in the future, Xiaoyu will have to trouble you. If Xiaoyu causes you any trouble, please don't hesitate to look for me. I will not stand on ceremony. Si Yenmu smiled elegantly. Yiqing Luo returned a smile. Since you're already the Vice President of the Faculty Council, I'll leave all the matters of the Faculty Council to you. Zi Qianqian, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke. She crossed her arms over her chest and coldly glanced at the young lady who was kneeling by the side, sobbing softly. The student's portrait, that is the student's privacy, and also something that the school pays great attention to protecting. She snuck into the president's office and stole the devil class's portrait. Vice President, how do you think we should deal with this? Yan Zhenfei, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly trembled. She thought that the people from the faculty council had shifted their attention away from her. Why did it involve her again? Chapter 1370. Lu Xiaoyu's expression stiffened. I deal with it. She looked over at Yan Zhenfei. Coincidentally, Yan Zhenfei was staring at her with a venomous gaze. Lu Xiaoyu was so shocked that she took a step back towards Yiqing Luo. The expression on her face turned uglier. I don't know about these. Before she could say the word understand, Si Yenmu's gentle voice had interrupted Lu Xiaoyu's rejection. Qianqian's suggestion is not bad, then, this matter will be handed over to the vice president to deal with. His gaze was gentle and his smile made one feel as if spring had bloomed. As if he really didn't hear Lu Xiaoyu's rejection. And didn't see Lu Xiaoyu's increasingly ugly expression. Instead, it was the kind of gaze that encouraged his juniors to complete the task well. Making one have no choice but to accept this task. No choice but to obey his orders. Si Yenmu was a natural leader. He could easily manipulate people's emotions, making people involuntarily listen to his arrangements. Such a person was indeed suitable to be the faculty council president. At this moment, Lu Xiaoyu's refusal was stuck in her throat. The words that came out of her mouth were completely different from the words that came out of her brain. Okay. I will try my best. Just as the voice fell, Lu Xiaoyu stopped in annoyance. She covered her mouth tightly with both hands. Slender eyelashes were desperately fluttering. The beautiful eyes under the eyelashes stared at Si Yenmu, incomparably annoyed. Zi Qianqian snorted coldly, unable to conceal the coldness and disdain between her brows. Then Vice President, I will have to trouble you here. After that, she used a cold and arrogant gaze to look at the students around her. This student, Lu Xiaoyu, will be the future vice president of the faculty council. She is a freshman, so, students, don't forget to help this newly appointed vice president in the future. The president and I still have things to deal with in the faculty council, everyone must get along peacefully. That tone was raised to an extremely high pitch. Yiqing Luo felt that it was a little ear-piercing. Zi Qianqian deliberately emphasized the words, help, help. The meaning in those words was extremely obvious. A freshman became the vice president of the faculty council. For countless old students, as well as Lu Xiaoyu's group of supporters, they would never give up. Moreover, Lu Xiaoyu was just an ordinary freshman. Even now, he only had the title of vice president. However, Zi Qianqian's words clearly indicated that this vice president did not have the slightest bit of authority. Zi Qianqian was the one who held the true authority of the vice president. You're too polite, student Zi. Suddenly, a clear voice came from beside Lu Xiaoyu. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into an extremely shallow smile, her charming eyes curved into a long and narrow arc. Just by looking forward with a faint smile, she exuded a demonic charm. I'm very happy for Xiaoyu that my little sister is valued by the president. Her voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. His tone and tone were controlled just right. It was clearly domineering and overbearing, but it was impossible for others to feel aversion towards it. This is my sister's first time taking on such an important position. I believe that she will be able to gradually grow with everyone's help. If one day, this sister of mine is able to hold her own, I, Yiqing Luo, will definitely represent the entire devil class to thank all the students for their help. Yiqing Luo's words were sincere and sincere. A pair of smiling eyes, also sincerely looked at the surrounding people. Yiqing Luo's words had just landed. Yiqing Luo looked at the contract in her hands, which was signed by the director and the elders' quarters, as she gave a satisfied smile. She folded the contract and placed it in the profound phoenix ring. With this contract in hand, all the students in the devil class were all free and unfettered. In this heavenly academy, no matter if it was the dean or the elders, no one had the authority to order the students of the devil class to do anything. Xia Yan shook his head. Since it's an agreement, I will naturally do my best. Yiqing Luo smiled. That's right. Xia Yan hesitated for a while, as he looked away unnaturally. I heard. Xiaoyu has become the vice president of the faculty council. Xiaoyu? Chapter 1372. The faculty council. She's just a new student. Wouldn't that be too much pressure for her? Xia Yan tried to be tactful. The interest in Yiqing Luo's eyes intensified. Student Xia seems to care a lot about Xiaoyu. Xia Yan's handsome face instantly flushed red. His gaze wandered around unnaturally. No, it's just that we used to be in the same class. As the former class monitor, when I heard that she had become the vice president of the faculty council, I naturally showed some concern. It's my first time coming into contact with the affairs of the faculty council, and I'm also the vice president. The pressure must be huge. Yiqing Luo stopped teasing Xia Yan as her lips curled into a smile, but to Xiaoyu, this is a huge turning point in her life. This is Xiaoyu's choice. No matter how much pressure she's under, no matter how busy she is, as long as she doesn't tell her to stop, she will be able to hold on. Xia Yan paused. After a long while, he finally nodded his head. Xiaoyu's potential is immeasurable. When she slowly matures and transforms, she will definitely break out of her cocoon and become a butterfly. Yiqing Luo smiled as she muttered to herself. Metamorphosis from a cocoon to a butterfly. Xia Yan's eyes were overflowing with gentleness. Xiaoyu is a smart girl. I'm sure you've heard about the first mission that was announced after Xiaoyu was appointed, right? Xia Yan nodded. Lu Xiaoyu had indeed dealt with Yan Zhenfei. However, the way to deal with it was not what everyone expected, to take the chance to kill Yan Zhenfei. Lu Xiaoyu was very fair and strict. Slandering a devil class student was a huge offense. Being disrespectful to a teacher was a grave offense. Stealing a student's portrait from the faculty council and betraying a student's privacy had severely damaged the reputation of the academy. Lu Xiaoyu forced Yan Zhenfei out of the faculty council as a warning to others. As for the matter of betraying a student's privacy, the student who was betrayed was the devil class. Under Lu Xiaoyu's pleading, the students of the devil class chose to forgive Yan Zhenfei and no longer pursued the matter. Therefore, according to the rules of the faculty council, Lu Xiaoyu noted down 2 minor demerits for Yan Zhenfei and announced it to the entire academy, criticizing Yan Zhenfei's behavior. Of course, this was not the most important thing. What made Yiqing Luo unable to restrain her laughter was, Lu Xiaoyu was also a black-bellied girl. She said that Yan Zhenfei's thoughts were not correct and that she was impatient. It was extremely imposing. He led the members of the faculty council and personally escorted Yan Zhenfei back to the Yan family. He told Yan Zhenfei to recuperate at home for 2 months before returning to the academy. Although, he did not expel Yan Zhenfei from the academy. But this punishment was no different from the humiliation Yan Zhenfei had suffered when she was expelled from the academy. However, all of Lu Xiaoyu's punishments were reasonable. Speaking of which, he was already being merciful. This was enough to prove that Lu Xiaoyu was not as stupid as she seemed on the surface. Her intelligence and meticulousness were hidden in her heart. If it's possible, when student Xie is free, help me take a look at Xiaoyu, guide her and give her some help. I think Xiaoyu will be very grateful to you. Yiqing Luo said with a smile. Xia Yan suddenly raised his head. Of course, I will definitely help Xiaoyu. These words were spoken extremely quickly, and they were sonorous and forceful. It was as if he had blurted out his inner thoughts. Xia Yan realized that he was overreacting and hurriedly explained, As the former class president, it's only right for me to care about my former classmates. Yiqing Luo smiled without saying a word. Until she sent Xia Yan off with her eyes. Yiqing Luo turned around and returned to the devil class's courtyard. In the following days, they had to prepare for the academy's exchange meet, which was half a month later. The director and Wolf Saint Technique had prepared such a huge surprise for the devil class in South Continent. Chapter 1373. Devil class was back on the right track. Everything was the same as before. But more or less, there was some difference. In the past, when these students appeared in the academy, no one cared about them. Now, no matter where these students went, they would be chased by a group of fangirls. Even Ni Ruopan, Bei Ming Liancheng and the rest of the profound grades, who were currently in the mystic profound grades, had captured a large number of supporters who were even higher than them. Initially, devil class's students were still enjoying it. After all, these people used to look down on them, ridiculing them, saying that they were trash. But now, no matter where they went, they were respected, admired, and envied. Of course, this didn't mean that these youngsters were too complacent. These were all youngsters in their teens, so their minds were not mature yet. Naturally, they would be complacent because of the change in the students' attitude towards them. But, after a long time, these students tasted the pressure of being supported and flattered by their supporters. They had to undergo extremely strict training every day. There was the integrated training from the few members of the class committee, and also Guiyu's training. After that, they had to be surrounded by the other students, asking them some messy questions. Wherever they went, there would be people following them. Over time, these students simply holed up in the courtyard of the devil class, too lazy to go out. Yiqing Luo had also experienced the ancient method of chasing after stars. This degree of craziness was absolutely not inferior to those fans in the modern era. The other students, after going through the interclass competition, initially didn't feel that Devil class's performance was very impressive. To be able to obtain victory, that was because of Yi Qing Luo's good luck. But under the intentional popularization, how Devil class's students cooperated, how they pretended to be disheveled, in actual fact they were leading those students in circles to deplete their energy. Following that, Yi Qing Luo specially placed some of Devil class's physical training on the public square. These training was even stricter than their freshmen's training. Those students who thought that they were elite students, after seeing these training, were completely defeated. Even the two cold-faced instructors in charge of the freshman training, Instructor He and Instructor Chu, had joined their training. Devil class was indeed no longer the previous waste class. It could be said that Devil class was completely popular. Yi Qing Luo's reputation became even more resounding. But these few days, Yi Qing Luo obviously felt a trace of strangeness. How should one describe this feeling? It seemed that ever since they returned from the Shi family's residence, these youths in Devil class had an obvious change in attitude towards her, Long Yunzhan and the rest. Long Yunzhan also felt this change. The youths of Devil class were still the same youths. However, they seemed to be more respectful and well-behaved toward her and Long Yunzhan. She would never go against anything they had said. They were so well-behaved that they didn't seem like children of their age. If it was in the past, she wanted to strengthen the training. Although these youths would still listen to her orders obediently in the end. But before he listened, he would definitely wail incessantly, or even roll around and act cute. Asking Yi Qing Luo to cancel her plan of strengthening the training. Being obedient was a good thing. But, Yi Qing Luo recalled that when they were at the Shi family's residence, their attitude towards her and Shi Shanglan was obviously different. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but creased her brows. He always felt that it was too easy to get out of the Shi family's residence. Chapter 1374. Yi Qing Luo's mind was filled with messy thoughts, unable to stop. She sighed as she pushed open the door to the dormitory which she had not stepped into for half a month. She could obviously feel that when she stayed in the Devil class, those youngsters' emotions were too tensed up. She might as well return to the dormitory. If she wasn't around, those youngsters should be able to relax. Walking into the dormitory, she discovered that there was no one around. Thinking about it, it made sense. After Lu Xiaoyu took over the vice president's position, she had been at the faculty council every day, trying her best to learn the vice president's ability. As for Mo Yuing, she appeared and disappeared unpredictably. If she didn't want to appear, basically no one would be able to see her. The other Lu Shuiyu. It seemed like after the interclass competition, there was no news of her coming to the academy. Looking at the empty dormitory, Yi Qing Luo sighed softly as she walked into her own dormitory. So lonely. All along, she had been together with the students, and had never separated before. Now she was isolated by the students. This feeling was not good at all. I'm not around, Lil Luo, or feels lonely. A mellow and deep voice that was as mellow as fine wine rang in his ears. That distance was extremely close. As though it was right next to her ear. Yi Qing Luo got a shock as she immediately turned around. Warm thin lips brushed past her skin. Yi Qing Luo had yet to react, and at the moment she turned around, she felt the world spinning as her feet left the ground. She cried out in shock as she subconsciously wrapped her arms around the man's neck. A warm kiss landed on her lips. The elegant sandalwood scent filled up Yi Qing Luo's empty heart. Ah Xian. Yi Qing Luo's breathing was hurried as she called out Dmo Xian's name. Her voice had just left her mouth. The next moment, she was already pressed onto the soft bed. A head of fine black hair, scattered onto the white pillow. His scorching hot body, pressed down. Ah Xian? Yi Qing Luo's face was flushed red, both her hands propped on his chest as she lowered her eyes. Dmo Xian narrowed his long peach blossom eyes, as he gazed deeply at the woman below him. A beauty that could topple a city, her eyes were like silk, as she emitted a charming invitation. Sparkling peach blossom eyes, the lustrous luster, became darker. It seemed even more profound and intoxicating. Ah Xian, don't press on me, it's very heavy. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were stained with tears as she was extremely shy. When they were in the Shi family's residence, Dmo Xian would basically appear in her room at night, hugging her to sleep. When she woke up the next day, he was nowhere to be found. And after returning to the academy, Dmo Xian still needed to use the identity of revered Mo to handle the matters of the academy. As a result, it had been a long time since they had had a proper conversation or interaction. She hadn't expected him to appear in her dormitory room at this time. He had even used his true appearance to show himself. Wasn't he afraid of being discovered by the students of the academy or other teachers? Lil Luo, without you by my side, I also feel so lonely. The man's low and hoarse voice seemed to carry countless tenderness. It made one involuntarily want to sink into his warmth. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped uncontrollably. At the same time, Dmo Xian slightly propped up his body, to avoid his entire body's weight, pressing onto Yiqing Luo. However, he only moved away a little. His hot chest was still tightly pressed against her body. Chapter 1375. He lowered his eyelids and met her gaze. His scorching gaze seemed to burn her body. Yiqing Luo felt her entire body was burning hot. She instinctively shifted her gaze away and stretched out her hand to push his burning hot chest as she bit her lips. Ah Xian, you get up first. Dmo Xian's gaze was so blatant. How could she not tell what the burning flames in Dmo Xian's eyes represented? Yiqing Luo evaded. Dmo Xian closed in. His slender fingers gently stroked the air. The greenish-white uniform immediately fell off his body, revealing the watercolor dudu underneath. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo pressed his scorching palm as she twisted her body and shrunk in the opposite direction. But before she could move, his body was pinned under his body by a large palm. Dmo Xian's eyes were fixated on her delicate face. Lil Luo, have you forgotten what I said earlier? Yiqing Luo's cheeks suddenly turned red. He said, in a few days, I will make her cry for mercy. This was already, a few days had passed. Her reliance to provoke Dmo Xian, and menstruation had already paid a visit and left. Looking at Dmo Xian's current stance, it was obvious that he would not give up until he achieved his goal. She had to think of a way, oh. Before she could think of a way, Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly went blank as her petite body started trembling. His hand, actually slid directly into the dudu. That touch stimulated Yiqing Luo like an electric shock. Reflexively, she pressed Dmo Xian's hand again. But Dmo Xian's reaction was faster than her. He directly grabbed both her hands and raised them above her head. His body had already moved downwards, using his mouth to replace the action of his hands. She had lived 2 lifetimes. This was the first time Yiqing Luo was touched in this way. She only felt a numbing electric shock from head to toe, making her unable to muster up any strength. Her mind was also blank. She almost cried out uncontrollably. Ah Xian, wait. I have something to tell you, it's the Academy's recent matters. Dmo Xian added more force, we'll talk about it later. Ah. Yiqing Luo sucked in a mouthful of cold air as she stuttered, and Devil Class's students, they. Dmo Xian abruptly opened his dudu, we'll talk about it later. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were already sparkling and translucent, as her body trembled uncontrollably. The consciousness in her mind also started to dissipate, but. He leaned down and kissed her lips forcefully. His hands didn't stop moving. Can't you shut your mouth? The next day, when Yiqing Luo woke up, the sky was already bright. She wanted to rub her eyes, but she felt sore all over. He didn't even have the strength to lift his hand. It was as if someone had broken his bones and then reconstructed his body. She frowned and groaned. Let's rest a little longer. Suddenly, she heard a man's low and hoarse voice. Yiqing Luo cried out in shock as she raised her head abruptly and met with a pair of peach blossom eyes which were filled with a satisfied and pampering smile. The memories from last night immediately rushed into his mind. Her cheeks suddenly turned red. Last night she and Dmo Xian. She was actually eaten by Dmo Xian. Anne. It really came true to Dmo Xian's words. She cried for mercy. Her cries were heart-wrenching and extremely tragic. But, a beast like Dmo Xian. She was begging for mercy. And couldn't stop Dmo Xian's actions. Tired. Feel. No. Love. Dmo Xian held her slender wrist with one hand. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened as her face turned crimson red. She cried out in a hoarse voice, "No. I can't anymore, Xian, don't." She was still in pain now. This man who had just started, didn't know how to control himself. Wait. Dmo Xian's past, she had no way to understand. And how could she be sure that Dmo Xian had just started? Last night's actions were so skillful, could it be that in the past? The wild thoughts in her mind had yet to come to a conclusion. Dmo Xian had already pulled her body into his embrace. Their exposed skin was tightly pressed against each other. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the changes in her body. So shy that she wanted to retreat. But she had no energy. Lil Luo, He called out her name in a low voice. Yiqing Luo was bashful and confused about the reason why his proficiency points were maxed out. She gave a muffled "N" in his arms. Chapter 1376. Yiqing Luo suddenly raised her eyes. Her tearful eyes met his. His breathing suddenly stopped. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. He said he loved her. Dmo Xian had said a lot of sweet nothings. But this was the first time he had sincerely said the word love. She knew that Dmo Xian loved her. But based on Dmo Xian's character, he would absolutely not say such a confession. She had never thought that Dmo Xian would say this. At this moment, she heard it from his mouth. Yiqing Luo only felt that her world was blooming with colorful fireworks. Soreness all over. The pain in his body. As well as earlier. Because Dmo Xian might have had sexual relations with other women in the past. Everything was thrown to the back of his mind. She smiled happily, "I love you too, Xian." A rough and urgent kiss landed on her lips. Yiqing Luo moaned softly as her swollen lips were ravaged by him viciously. It hurt a little. His body temperature rose again. It scorched Yiqing Luo's skin. Yiqing Luo wanted to struggle. Xian, stop, this man, why doesn't he seem to be full? If he did it again, she would be the one who was going to be broken. Don't, Xian. It hurts, it really hurts. Yiqing Luo showed her weakness as she held Dmo Xian's hand, her charming eyes looking at him pitifully. Dmo Xian's body stiffened and immediately tensed up. This kind of begging and showing of weakness made his desire burn even more vigorously. He really wanted to press Yiqing Luo onto his body again, to properly feel her existence. Last night's tightness and that comfortable feeling. No matter how much he ate, he couldn't beat them. However, he still forced himself to hold on and stopped. He propped himself up and gazed deeply at the girl with crimson cheeks and seductive eyes. Her eyes were hazy and seductive. Her hair, which was drenched in sweat, clung tightly to her skin, making her look extremely sexy. It was clear that she was aroused. However, there was a glimmer of tears at the corner of her eyes. Her petite body could not stop trembling. He had lost his self-control last night, eating Yi Qing Luo over and over again. No wonder Yi Qing Luo was crying out in pain. He turned sideways and fell beside Yi Qing Luo as he stretched out his hand and caressed her body. Where does it hurt? Why are you asking when you already know the answer? Yi Qing Luo was so angry that her cheeks turned red as she gritted her teeth and rebuked. Here. He reached out and touched the place where he had played with her. Yi Qing Luo's petite body couldn't stop trembling as her breathing quickened. Emperor. Ink. Xian. His fingers were very gentle. It was as if he was touching the most precious thing in the world. Yi Qing Luo's body trembled, but she didn't feel any pain at all. Dmo Xian withdrew his hand and hugged her tightly as his warm lips kissed her panting lips. I'm sorry, I've hurt you. Seeing that he really had no intention of continuing, Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Now, she totally had no way to endure Dmo Xian's crazy plundering. Fortunately, this man had not transformed into a beast. It really hurts. Yi Qing Luo pouted her lips and cried out pitifully and aggrievedly. But in his heart, he was secretly laughing. She didn't want to pretend to be aggrieved. Wouldn't it allow Dmo Xian to be even more unbridled in the future? For the sake of her future life, she must restrain Dmo Xian's desire. I'm sorry. Dmo Xian apologized once again as his long arms wrapped tightly around her petite body. His gaze was deep. I don't have any experience in this area and don't know how to control myself. I've hurt you, I'll be more careful next time. Chapter 1377. This time, she almost lost half of her life. If there was another time, she would definitely die. Wait, what did he just say? Yi Qing Luo suddenly reacted, the anger in her eyes turned into surprise and suspicion. You have no experience? No experience? In other words, Dmo Xian had never had a woman before? She was his first woman? Then how did he manage to fill up the proficiency points that he was so familiar with? Where did he get the skills to torment her so badly? The guilt and tenderness in Dmo Xian's eyes faded away. He stretched out his hand and pinched her lower jaw directly. The slightly squinted peach blossom eyes were deep and quiet. He stared at her condescendingly with an imposing manner. Are you doubting me? Yi Qing Luo was stunned by his imposing manner as she lowered her eyes. I feel that you are very powerful, so. A trace of smile gradually appeared in his quiet eyes. He loosened the strength that pinched her lower jaw and lowered his head. How am I powerful? At such a close distance, Yi Qing Luo could feel Dmo Xian's breath on her lips. She wanted to retreat, but Dmo Xian hugged her even tighter. His lips were on her face. If you don't explain clearly, I will continue. Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo flew into a rage out of humiliation. If you tease me again, I will kick you off the bed. Dmo Xian gave a low laugh but stopped the act of forcing her to say such shameful words. His arms tightened around her as he whispered in her ear, in this big world, the only woman who can enter my eyes, is only you. Yi Qing Luo's long curly eyelashes fluttered. Was he explaining her previous suspicions? Other than her, he would not touch any other woman. Was this the promise he made to her? Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes as her hands tightly circled around his neck. Whether it was a promise or not. At this moment, she took it seriously. Dmo Xian was not a person who spoke casually. Whatever he said, he would definitely do it. She believed in Dmo Xian. And also believed in the feelings between them. The two of them snuggled together on the bed for another 1 hour. The school bell had already rung for lunch. Yiqing Luo then realized with a start that it was already noon. Oh no! Morning training. She still had to watch the devil class's students train and had actually forgotten about this matter. Yiqing Luo hurriedly tried to get up. The arm that was around her waist pulled her into his embrace. Yiqing Luo's delicate body fell backwards. She fell into the scorching embrace of Dmo Xian. Don't underestimate your brothers. Even if you're not here, they won't stop their training. Dmo Xian caressed her fine black hair. Based on your current condition, I'm afraid you won't be able to train your brothers. Yiqing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly as she pouted, can't you see who's the one who caused this? She was exhausted and had no strength left in her. Even if he went to the devil class, he probably wouldn't be able to do much. It was also possible, the students of the devil class saw through it. You, take a good rest today. Dmo Xian met her reproachful gaze, alright, I'll bring you some food first to replenish your energy. With that, he gently kissed her lips. Following that, he lifted the blanket and got off the bed. Yiqing Luo gave an ah as she tugged the blanket and covered her head. He was actually naked. From head to toe, he was totally naked. She even saw. Cough cough. Chapter 1378. But a beauty was right in front of her. If she didn't take a look, it would be a waste of such a good opportunity. Yiqing Luo was extremely conflicted. After thinking for a moment, she heard the rustling sound of a man putting on his clothes not too far away. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth as she grabbed the quilt and lifted a small gap. The pitch-black vision was instantly filled with light. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she searched for the man's figure in the bedroom. Yiqing Luo saw the man standing by the bed at one glance. He had finished putting on his pants, revealing his well-dressed upper body. Those muscles which were full of tension, the lines were extremely smooth. Strong and muscular body, perfect pectoral muscles. All of which made Yiqing Luo blush. His skin was extremely fair. But there wasn't any sense of incongruity. On the contrary, it made him look even more alluring. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but recall last night, her hands, pressing on his skin in a fluster. Tight and firm, but it made her feel very comfortable. Ah! Pui pui! Yiqing Luo, who was curled up in the quilt, slammed her face onto the bed. She was actually reminiscing about last night. She didn't feel that he was comfortable. Yiqing Luo's head rubbed on the bed for a long time before she raised her head and looked towards the direction of Dmo Xian. This look almost made Yiqing Luo jump in fright. She had just raised her eyes and looked at Dmo Xian through the small gap. Through the small gap, he saw a peerlessly beautiful face magnified in his eyes at close range. That handsome godlike face, with a deep contour. His thin lips were lightly outlined, the arc was devilishly charming. It was totally seducing her, and the rhythm of pouncing on her fiercely. Have you seen enough? His voice was low and hoarse, extremely gentle. Rub rub rub. Now this is awkward. Peeking at a beauty was discovered by the main character. If you haven't seen enough, I'll take it off, you can continue looking. Dmo Xian leaned closer, his arched handsome brows, showing his joyful mood. Saying that, his slender fingers had already touched the waist seal, as though he was about to undo it. You. Stop. Yiqing Luo's flushed face was boiling hot. She abruptly jumped out of the blanket and stretched out her hand to hold on to Dmo Xian's burning hot palm. No need to take it off, I've seen enough. Dmo Xian raised his brows and narrowed his peach blossom eyes. Just as he was about to open his mouth, he was suppressed by Yiqing Luo's voice, That figure is great. Your abs and chest muscles are very tempting. Let me touch your abs and chest some other day. Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's flushed red little face, thinking that she would be able to squeeze out a sentence after holding it in for so long. Ha ha ha. Unexpectedly, was he being teased by Lil Luo? The feeling of being flirted with was not bad at all. Yiqing Luo's complexion was boiling hot. Listening to the man's exaggerated laughter, she sat up angrily, raised her fist and hit him. You still laugh at me? I'll hammer your chest with my little fists. Her voice was half coquettish, half coquettish. This made Dmo Xian's mood even more joyous, and his smile became even more joyous. Yiqing Luo couldn't wait to dig a hole and hide in it. Suddenly, Dmo Xian grabbed her wrist and moved it towards his chest. Following that, he grabbed her hand and slowly moved it downwards. Yiqing Luo was shocked and wanted to retract her hand. But how could her strength match up to Dmo Xian? She was dragged by him and groped all over his chest and abdomen. Chapter 1379. Hey hey hey. Flirting and driving at the slightest disagreement, this was against the rules all right. Yiqing Luo was extremely embarrassed and had no way to struggle free from Dmo Xian, beast. I'm not thinking of touching you now. I'm hungry, hurry and buy me something to eat. She acted like a queen as she commanded Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's eyes were gentle as he held her wrist tightly and placed it on his waist as he bent over and kissed her lips. The warm lips brought with it a restrained desire. He wanted Yiqing Luo, and all the hopes he had for her were all contained in this kiss. Yiqing Luo was kissed till she couldn't breathe. She naturally sensed his thoughts from the intense kiss. Yiqing Luo's face flushed red as her delicate body fell limply into his arms. This kiss almost took half of Yiqing Luo's life. Yiqing Luo felt that she was about to faint. In his mind, everything in front of him was white. As though something had exploded in front of her eyes. She panted heavily as she leaned into Dmo Xian's arms, totally without any energy to resist. Lil Luo, really don't want to stop. Dmo Xian's deep eyes were emitting a dense whirlpool. He tightened his grip on her waist. Even through the clothes, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the scorching heat emitted from Dmo Xian's body, burning everything about her. He wanted again. Yiqing Luo's face flushed red. Although she knew clearly that this kind of thing, if Dmo Xian continued to hold it in, he might possibly get sick. But she was really in pain. There was really no other way to endure Dmo Xian's plunder. What should she do? Yiqing Luo's mind was in a dilemma. Dmo Xian's deep eyes gazed deeply at the young lady below him. That trembling body and fluttering eyelashes. All of them were sending him a silent invitation. Dmo Xian took a deep breath and used an extremely strong willpower to shift his gaze away. He tensed his body and clenched his fists as he suddenly retracted his hand and stood up straight. He could not touch Yiqing Luo. Although he had no experience in this aspect. He didn't know what kind of feeling a lady would have after experiencing her first night. But he remembered that when he invaded last night, Yiqing Luo was in so much pain that tears welled up in her eyes. He still remembered her hoarse voice last night, crying for mercy. He had no control. His mad plunder. He must have hurt Yiqing Luo. If you touch her now, Lil Luo's body would definitely not be able to withstand it. That. Xian, if you can't hold it in, Yiqing Luo was just about to say that she couldn't hold it in. If he was gentler, she could still, but the next moment, Dmo Xian had already pulled the blanket over and wrapped her up tightly. Lil Luo, if you tempt me again, even if you beg for mercy, I will not stop. His voice was slightly hoarse as he suppressed his strong emotions. After he finished speaking, he clenched his fists and immediately turned around to walk out of the room. Xian, Yiqing Luo's voice had just left her mouth when Dmo Xian's figure had already disappeared from the bedroom. Yiqing Luo straightened her body, enduring the soreness in her waist. His feet slipped out of the blanket and he was about to get off the bed. Only then did he realize that his body, he was completely naked. In other words, she had just stopped Dmo Xian from releasing the waist seal. The way she looked in front of Dmo Xian. Cough cough. All along, she was completely naked. Had Dmo Xian seen everything? Yiqing Luo buried her head into the pillow in embarrassment, as she let out a bashful howl. When had she been so careless? Heavens! Chapter 1380. No matter how much Yiqing Luo wailed, she was so shy that she didn't want to see Dmo Xian again. She could only obediently stay in the bedroom and wait for Dmo Xian to send her food back. She thought that her stamina was pretty good. But she estimated that no matter how strong his physical strength was, he would not be able to withstand Dmo Xian's plundering. She did not even have the strength to stand up. Not to mention getting dressed, leaving the bedroom and avoiding Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo cupped her burning cheeks, trying her best to retract the words which she had almost said earlier from her mind. I can't think about it anymore. If she continued to think about it, she would really dig a hole. Yiqing Luo buried her head into the pillow, holding her face as she muttered to herself. Gradually, he became drowsy. Not knowing how much time had passed, Yiqing Luo heard a slight sound beside her ear. She opened her eyes in a daze and saw a man in a flowing purple robe sitting on the side of the bed, staring at her sleeping face. Ah, Xian, Yiqing Luo blushed as she struggled to get up. When did you come back? Dmo Xian's long arm stretched out and wrapped around her waist, lifting her up. Yiqing Luo still remembered that her naked body was seen clearly by Dmo Xian earlier. She lowered her head in embarrassment and wanted to pull the blanket over herself. However, he realized that he had put on a white inner garment at some point. She blushed. Dmo Xian when did he help her put on her clothes? Why was she completely unaware of it? Her perceptive ability had become so bad? Little Luo, Dmo Xian looked at her gently. Her voice was gentle, and the expression on her face was so tender that it seemed as if water could be squeezed out of it. I'm sorry for hurting you, huh? Yiqing Luo couldn't react in time. Dmo Xian's hand had already wrapped around her body tightly. His chin rested on her shoulder. Even the scorching breath he exhaled was filled with a thick sense of guilt. I don't know. It's a woman's first time and she can't bear such rough behavior. Dmo Xian tightened his grip. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her face instantly turned red. You. What are you saying this for, His voice suddenly stopped. Because Dmo Xian's embrace was a little too big. Her body was encircled by Dmo Xian. His body rose a little bit. A cool and refreshing feeling came from beneath his body. That coolness soothed the swelling and pain from Dmo Xian's craziness last night. You, where are you? Yiqing Luo was about to scream out loud. This man, when she was asleep, did not just put her underwear on. He even applied ointment there. Was it necessary to be so filial? She no longer had the face to look at Dmo Xian's face. She had no face to talk to Dmo Xian anymore. Damn it! Could she dig a hole and escape? Sorry. For hurting you last night. Dmo Xian apologized tenderly once again. His gentleness made Yiqing Luo's soaring arrogance gradually calm down. Carefully sensing, he could feel that Dmo Xian's body was trembling slightly. He was really remorseful for his behavior last night. Where did he learn these things from? But Yiqing Luo didn't delve into this point. She simply stretched out her arms and wrapped them around his waist as she whispered, "It's fine. It's fine as long as it's you." Last night, she was in pain. He was in so much pain that he was going to die. But in this pain, she was rejoicing that she could become one with Dmo Xian. She finally accepted everything about Dmo Xian. She became Dmo Xian's woman. To tell the truth, she was satisfied. Painful, but happy. Chapter 1381. Lil Luo, Dmo Xian caressed her face as his peach blossom eyes were filled with tenderness. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and cupped his face as she burst out laughing, "Silly, I already said it's alright, Anne. I'm really happy." Her words paused as her fingers pinched his nose instead. She straightened her body and stared at him with a rude and unreasonable look. "Now, you're already mine and I've stamped my seal. In future, other than me, you're not allowed to look at any other woman." The smile on Dmo Xian's face became even more devilish. The glistening light embellished his inky black eyes. "Other than you, I won't look at anyone else." "That's good." Yiqing Luo nodded her head in satisfaction as she released his nose and said with a tsundere look, "I'm hungry, serve this queen my meal." The smile on Dmo Xian's face became even more intense. That smile, that curved eyebrows, those long and narrow eyes. It revealed a warmth and tenderness that made one's heart beat endlessly. Yiqing Luo was no exception. She was bewitched by Dmo Xian's smile until she almost lost her soul. "Yes, my queen." Dmo Xian smiled as he placed the steaming hot porridge aside. It was extremely light but it gave off an alluring fragrance, which aroused one's appetite. Yiqing Luo, who had worked hard for the entire night and hadn't eaten anything for the entire day. Immediately, his stomach began to growl. Dmo Xian smiled as he scooped up a spoonful of porridge and placed it by his lips to test the temperature before sending it to Yiqing Luo's lips. Yiqing Luo's face turned red. Just as she was about to reject. That spoonful of porridge had already entered her mouth. The fragrant porridge had a faint taste of minced meat. It was sticky and refreshing. One mouthful and Yiqing Luo instantly felt her appetite was aroused. The next spoonful of porridge had already been sent over. Yiqing Luo didn't argue any further. She opened her mouth and received that spoonful of porridge. One fed, one ate. Very quickly, the bowl of porridge was emptied. Dmo Xian placed the bowl by the side as his slender fingers brushed past her lips, helping her to wipe them. "Do you still want more?" he asked. Yiqing Luo shook her head as her eyes were filled with smiles. "I'm full." Dmo Xian smiled faintly as he approached the bedside and took her into his arms once again. The familiar scent of sandalwood lingered in his nose. Yiqing Luo snuggled into his arms. He enjoyed the tranquility and warmth very much. She and Dmo Xian had not been like this for a very long time. They just quietly embraced each other, quietly accompanying each other. Such a simple happiness. That was the greatest happiness. The night was deep. Their necks were intertwined. Tonight, Dmo Xian was not as anxious as yesterday. He has no excessive behavior or behavior. Initially, Yiqing Luo was still on tenterhooks, wondering if Dmo Xian would transform again. In the end, Dmo Xian only gently kissed her forehead and hugged her to sleep. This made Yiqing Luo not used to it. Logically, she was the one who had been eaten clean last night and was now lying in bed for an entire day. The one with her hands and feet tied should be her. Why was it that Dmo Xian was so well behaved instead? In the afternoon, when Dmo Xian went to get her food, who did he bump into? Or did he seek knowledge in this area from someone, to popularize it? So now, his heart ached for her. Couldn't bear to let her be in so much pain that she couldn't get up. Don't let your imagination run wild. Dmo Xian's broad palm covered Yiqing Luo's hair. "If you don't quieten down and can't control yourself, then don't blame me for not suppressing myself." Yiqing Luo's face turned red. I didn't say anything. Chapter 1382. When Dmo Xian went berserk, he was indeed terrifying. Yiqing Luo held her breath as she buried her face into his chest and shut her eyes tightly, hypnotizing herself to sleep. The man around her let out a low laugh. His broad and warm chest was heaving up and down. Yiqing Luo's face was scorched by that chest. She was embarrassed and annoyed as her face turned red. "What are you laughing at?" Dmo Xian still couldn't stop laughing. He slightly relaxed his arms as he lowered his head and used her hair as a pillow. "Silly girl, I asked you not to intentionally tease me, I didn't ask you not to breathe." Yiqing Luo buried her head even deeper in embarrassment. I didn't tease you." Dmo Xian laughed so hard that his chest vibrated. Yiqing Luo flew into a rage out of embarrassment as she stretched out her hand to scratch him. She had just raised her hand when her wrist was held in Dmo Xian's palm. His broad and warm palm was placed on her skin. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled as she wanted to retract her hand, but he held it even tighter. This couldn't be. A sign that he was about to go berserk? This thought flashed past her mind as Yiqing Luo's body suddenly tensed up. Xian, I must return to the devil class tomorrow as we are about to go to the South Continent. Before she could finish her words, that palm which was holding her wrist entered her fingers and intertwined with her fingers. His warm and smiling voice stirred one's heart. "So Lil Luo is thinking about this." He lowered his head as his warm lips landed on her neck. Warm breath sprayed. Yiqing Luo shivered as tiny goosebumps appeared on her skin. Xian. Her body was even more sensitive than before. Dmo Xian's tiny movement made her body boiling hot. "Lil Luo wants it?" Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's reaction in satisfaction as he gave a low laugh. "No," she replied without hesitation. No matter how sensitive her body was. Dmo Xian's actions, no matter how much it stirred her body and mind. Yiqing Luo was determined not to. If she nodded, she was probably going to die on this bed. Although, I really want it. Amused by her reply, Dmo Xian hugged her tighter. "But, in order to not let you resist this kind of thing in future, I will not do anything tonight." Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she arched into his arms and raised her head, using her sparkling eyes to look at him. "Really?" That pair of charming eyes seemed to be embellished with shimmering brilliance. Dmo Xian's smiling face was clearly reflected on it. Her cheeks were red, and her face was full of shyness. This impact made Dmo Xian's lower abdomen tighten. His voice was hoarse. He narrowed his eyes and said word by word, "If you tempt me again, I can't guarantee it." That burning goal was filled with an urgent desire for the valley. How could Yiqing Luo not tell? Her cheeks turned even redder. She spat at him and lowered her eyes. "You shameless beast. I'm telling you, you already scared me last night. I'm already very resistant to this kind of thing. Don't even think about doing it to me in the future." Overruled. His hoarse and deep voice was calm and emotionless. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and groaned gloomily. Overruled just because he said so? Not even married yet and already wanted to be the head of the household? Humph. She was the real head of the household. She couldn't control Dmo Xian now. In the future after they got married, wouldn't he go to heaven? Just as she was about to be incomparably domineering and snatch back the position of the head of the household. That scorching hot palm suddenly touched the profound phoenix ring on her fingertip. A burst of scorching heat entered the profound phoenix ring. Her fingertip felt hot and she immediately congealed her gaze towards her own hand. Chapter 1383. The profound phoenix ring was flickering with a red glow that resembled electric currents. A drop of bewitching blood fell right in the middle of the profound phoenix ring. This was Dmo Xian's blood. He was the one who cut his finger and a drop of blood dripped down. Do you still remember the profound phoenix ring? He whispered into her ear. Yiqing Luo nodded. Her eyes seemed to be dyed with a touch of bewitching red under the fiery glow of the profound phoenix ring. This ring was something that Dmo Xian had left for her the first time they met. It was also the first gift that Dmo Xian had given her. She still remembered that when Dmo Xian forcibly contracted this ring with her, he had said something. He said, "Once you accept this lord's ring, you will belong to this lord." At that time, she didn't think much of it. She had never thought that she would belong to anyone. Unexpectedly, after going through many twists and turns, she finally became Dmo Xian's woman. She had just crossed over and met Dmo Xian and accepted his gift. She and Dmo Xian, it seemed like a natural fate. Thinking of the past, Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with smiles. She gazed at the profound phoenix ring that was still fusing with the drop of blood and smiled. "Ah Xian, from that time onwards, you fell in love with me at first sight." Otherwise, as arrogant and noble as his lord Dizun, why would he give his supreme netherworld phoenix ring to an irrelevant girl like her without hesitation? Yiqing Luo didn't believe that Dmo Xian was someone who would lend a helping hand when he saw someone molesting a young lady. Even if Dmo Xian was initially interested in this body of hers and lent a helping hand. But he would absolutely not give away the profound phoenix ring so easily. So, Dmo Xian had fallen in love with her from the beginning. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and revealed a complacent smile. "I've seen through your thoughts, so you have nothing to say." "You can put it that way." Dmo Xian wasn't in a hurry to refute. His hand gently covered hers. The bewitching blood merged with the profound phoenix ring. He chuckled softly, his eyes filled with gentleness. "From the first time I saw you, I had an inexplicable urge to get close to you. Perhaps, in the beginning, I thought that it was only because of the special nature of your body that I was interested in you. But, the truth is, from the first time I met your eyes, my heart had already fallen on you." His sweet nothings, word by word, fell into Yiqing Luo's ears. The pink bubbles in the room were about to expand. Did he admit that he had fallen in love with her at first sight? Was he confessing to her? Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with warmth and happiness. "I'll take your heart. I'll take in your men as well." She planted a gentle kiss on his thin lips. "So, you will belong to me for the rest of your life. No one would be able to snatch her man from her hands. Even if Dmo Xian wanted to leave. She would never let him leave. He was just that domineering. Just that asterisk. Dmo Xian's long and narrow peach blossom eyes were filled with tenderness and happiness. He held Yiqing Luo's hand. The profound phoenix ring on his fingertip had returned to its original luster. He held her hand and placed it on his lips, imprinting it on the profound phoenix ring. Chapter 1384. A token of love from the god realm of the upper realm? Yiqing Luo knew that this pair of rings had an extraordinary origin. But unexpectedly, it was actually something from the divine realm. No wonder, however, it was a Zhizuan realm ring. Not only was it able to store all living things, it was also able to store spiritual energy. It is said that the man and woman who possess this pair of rings are able to understand each other and grow old together. Dmo Xian's eyes revealed a trace of emotion that Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Not knowing why, Yiqing Luo felt that when Dmo Xian said this sentence, it faintly revealed some self-deprecation and bitterness. But in the blink of an eye, that feeling disappeared. He looked at her and curled his lips into a smile. The luster in his long and narrow peach blossom eyes was still as intoxicating as ever. That drop of blood just now activated our telepathy. Was it an illusion? The bitterness that Dmo Xian had conveyed earlier, was it just her misperception? No, didn't they say that their minds were connected? That feeling earlier should be Dmo Xian's feeling. Why did he have such emotions when he mentioned the Netherworld Phoenix Ring and the Netherworld Dragon Ring? Her hand caressed his cheek. Her slender and fair fingers caressed his slightly furrowed brows. Ah Xian, no matter who this pair of rings belonged to, now, it belongs to us as a token of love. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly, her eyes curved. To be able to connect with Ah Xian, it's really great. Since Dmo Xian didn't want to say, she wouldn't force him to ask. For Dmo Xian to reveal such emotions, it must have something to do with this pair of rings. She could tell. Dmo Xian treasured this pair of rings very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have worn this pair of rings all the time, never taking them off. The only thing she could do was to seal this pair of rings with the warm memories between them. From today onwards, if you wish to look for me, there's no need to ask a phone to contact me. As long as you wear the profound phoenix ring and call out my name in your heart, I will be able to hear it. Dmo Xian held her hand tightly, his eyes sparkled with joy because of Yiqing Luo's words. Then, when you call my name, will I be able to hear it? Yiqing Luo's heart trembled as an uncontrollable smile surfaced on her face. Could she look for him at any time? In the past, she could only wait for Dmo Xian to look for her. But she had no way of contacting Dmo Xian. If he wanted to find Dmo Xian, he would have to go through wind. Sure. Dmo Xian seemed to have sensed the agitation in her heart as he gently sighed, as he guiltily pulled her into his embrace. I'm sorry. Other than you, I've never interacted with other women. I don't understand women's preferences and thoughts. I admit that my ability to read people is not weak, but I have overlooked your thoughts. He murmured beside her ear. Beiyuan said that girls are the easiest to feel insecure. When I want to find you, I can find you anytime, but when you want to find me, you can only go through a phone. If he left, wouldn't Yiqing Luo feel uneasy? Although he knew that Yiqing Luo was a very strong young lady. But no matter how strong she was still a woman. If you miss me in the future, you can talk to me through the profound phoenix ring. A soft spot in Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to have been struck by something. Her eyes were filled with gratitude. She rested her head on his chest and whispered, Ah Xian, thank you. I should be the one thanking you. Dmo Xian sealed her lips and whispered, we still have a lifetime, let me slowly learn and understand your thoughts, so that you can be at ease with me. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened as she nodded her head vigorously and hugged him tightly. That's right. There was still a long time to learn. Chapter 1385. The next day, Yiqing Luo woke up from her sweet dreams. Dmo Xian was no longer by her side. Faintly, she could smell an appetizing fragrance. She looked in the direction of the smell. She saw a table not too far away, laid with a sumptuous breakfast. Her stomach grumbled a few times. She got up, the soreness in her body had eased by a lot. At least she could stand up now. The feeling in her legs had also eased. Stretching her waist, Yiqing Luo walked to the table. She then discovered that there was a piece of paper under the porridge bowl. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone slightly as she swiftly opened the paper. Indeed, it was written by Dmo Xian. It was to explain why he left early in the morning. This breakfast was prepared by him personally. And he had already rushed back to the imperial palace to settle the matters there. Returning in such a hurry. Did something happen at the imperial palace? Yiqing Luo carefully folded that piece of paper as though it was a treasure and kept it into the profound phoenix ring. She had heard a little about it. The confrontation between the imperial palace and the dark forces was still ongoing. Under such an urgent situation, Dmo Xian even came to the academy to look for her. Just for the 7-day agreement that they had previously set. The timing was so precise. Did he know when her period would leave? Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. Her little hands cupped her face and patted it. Don't be love-struck. Quickly wake up, we must return to the devil class today. Yesterday, Dmo Xian accompanied her for the entire day. Dmo Xian returned to the imperial palace to settle some matters. It was time for her to return to the devil class. Taking a deep breath, Yiqing Luo used the fastest speed to wash up. After washing up, looking at the table full of delicacies, she sat down. As she drank the porridge and ate her breakfast, she imagined the scene of Dmo Xian personally making breakfast for her. After breakfast, Yiqing Luo was in a good mood. Returning to the devil class, it was inevitable to be teased by Yan Xiaoyi and Tong Ziqing. Dmo Xian had specially asked Yan Xiaoyi to pass the message. To prevent these youngsters from worrying about Yiqing Luo and running over to the dormitory to disturb them. Therefore, the students in the devil class all knew that Yiqing Luo didn't come to the devil class yesterday because she was with Dmo Xian. Facing the duo's teasing, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change. She would be shy in front of Dmo Xian. That was because the target was Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo walked directly towards Long Yunzhan and was just about to ask him about the students' training situation yesterday. But before he got close to Long Yunzhan, he was the first to turn around and walk towards the class committee room. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as she looked at Yan Xiaoyi in a daze. What's wrong with Zhan? Yan Xiaoyi shook her head and sighed. Don't bother about him, it's time, we have to start training. Should she say that Yiqing Luo was intelligent or slow? He could clearly see her feelings for Qiao Jin. However, she couldn't see Long Yunzhan's feelings for her. Long Yunzhan liked Yiqing Luo. And Yiqing Luo had been fooling around with Dmo Xian for the entire day yesterday. Long Yunzhan's heart was broken. At this moment, he even forced Long Yunzhan to pretend that nothing had happened and talk to him with his usual attitude. That was too cruel, it was better to leave Long Yunzhan alone for a while. Yiqing Luo took a look at the direction where Long Yunzhan left, but eventually retracted her gaze. Their time was running out. They must grab hold of the time to train. The opponent's power was too strong, and if they were to lag behind by even a little bit, there was a possibility that they would become the dark force's food. Alright. Students, there's still 8 more days before the Academy's exchange meet. In these 8 days, we must train even harder. Yiqing Luo clapped her hands. Those youngsters who wanted to tease her, but seemed to be afraid of something and in the end could only stifle their laughter. Dared to tease her? Hee hee. Chapter 1386. 5 days later. The director announced to the entire academy that they were ready to set off for South Continent. As the number of students in Devil class was too little, the director chose several tens of students from other classes. The so-called Academy Exchange Meet. It wasn't just the director discussing the Academy's matters. There was also the competition between the students. Every year at this time, every academy would bring their most powerful class and students along. No academy was willing to embarrass themselves in front of other academies. Therefore, to be able to bring the students out of South Continent, although it was an honor, but the pressure was also huge. Once they brought shame to the academy, their future would be completely ruined. Therefore, all the students had to put in their best effort. As compared to the interclass competition, they had to work even harder. According to the new class distribution, High Profound Class 1, 20 students were selected. Intermediate Profound Class 2, 50 students. Low Profound Class 2, 10 students. Finally, from the class of gods, Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai were called to lead the team. The director confirmed several times before he was assured. This time, there were a total of 142 students who followed the director to take part in the Academy Exchange Meet. Towards the director's actions, Yiqing Luo and the rest had no objections. Only silently making preparations to head to South Continent. The main thing was that Yiqing Luo didn't have the leisure to care if the director brought the students from other classes along. Recently, the confrontation between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Forces had been placed out in the open. During this period, many of the so-called righteous people were gathering their men, saying that they wanted to have a life-and-death battle with the Dark Forces. But unfortunately, no group of people really charged forward. It was the Imperial Palace who found the nest of the Dark Forces at this critical juncture. They even led a group of Imperial Palace disciples to trample one of the Dark Forces' nest. It was rumored that it was a well-known figure in the Dark Forces, the nest of a certain force known as the Holy Technique. After being stirred up by the Imperial Palace, the entire Dark Forces were in chaos. Gradually, the Dark Forces started to show signs of collapse. Those righteous people saw that the Dark Forces had a breakthrough point and immediately led their men to rush up to help the Imperial Palace to have a life-and-death battle with the Dark Forces. This matter had spread like wildfire in the Nirvana realm. Because of her relationship with Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo had been asking Peach to help her find out news about the Imperial Palace. Although in this Nirvana realm, Dmo Xian could be said to be a person who could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. But she was still worried about Dmo Xian. She did not want to hear any news about the Imperial Palace or Dmo Xian. With such worries, Yiqing Luo stepped on the path towards the southern continent. This time, the Heavenly Academy's momentum was not considered huge. During the interclass competition, the students had colluded with the Dark Forces and caused quite a lot of trouble. As a result, the reputation of the outside world towards the Heavenly Academy was getting worse and worse. If the Heavenly Academy was to advertise for the Heavenly Academy like in previous years, it would only make the outside world laugh at the Heavenly Academy. Therefore, in the Heavenly Academy's team, in other words, there were the Dean, 5 elders, 5 teachers, and 50 guards to do odd jobs. Finally, there were 140 students. Some of these students had followed the Dean to attend a few academy exchanges. There were also many who were visiting the South Wave continent for the first time. Chapter 1387. There were also some students who were looking around, pointing at the things around them and asking all sorts of questions. There were some students who understood, or students who wanted to show off their presence, acting high and mighty as they answered the questions raised by other students. Along the way, it was extremely lively. As for Devil class, the youngsters had gone on a few missions due to the establishment of the World Group. Towards this kind of itinerary, there was no longer any novelty. Some were secretly discussing the new training methods. Some were training their physical fitness while walking. Some of them even added gravity belts to their arms and legs. Although the distance between West Continent and South Continent was not far. But based on the students' journey, it would take at least 5 days. As for the reason why it was journey, this was also the reason why the academy set off 7 days earlier. Because this time, the dean did not only bring along students from other classes. He even brought along the 2 freshman instructors, Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu. The 2 instructors immediately requested that they not forget to train the students on the way there. Initially, the dean did not agree as he felt that it was a waste of time. After all, the dean could not delay the exchange just to wait for him, a heavenly academy. But, the moment the instructor mentioned about the interclass competition, the devil class's students, walking the students of the other classes like walking dogs, until those students were exhausted, and in the end, laid on the ground without any strength to resist. The dean was silent. In the end, he agreed to set off earlier and changed from riding a horse to walking. Therefore, this time, in the team, other than the dean and a few elders, everyone else walked. After walking for about an entire morning, those students who were initially excited, in the end their legs could not take it anymore. One by one, they walked slower and slower, some even fell directly onto the ground, not willing to move. The dean reined in his horse and frowned as he looked at the group of dispirited students behind him. He felt that the two instructors' suggestion was right. These students' physical strength was really too weak. Even if their profound grades were higher. But their own quality and strength were too far apart from the profound grades. No wonder his lord liked to eat the souls of wild profound cultivators and not the high-quality souls reared by the academy. Of course, it could not be said that these students had never gone through physical training. It could only be said that these students were too focused on raising their profound grades and neglected their own physical strength. He didn't think about whether his physical strength could carry the profound rank they had. Why are all of you paralyzed? Time to get up. Instructor Ho chided coldly, look at yourselves now, do you look like the students of the Heavenly Academy? If passers-by were to see the Heavenly Academy's students behaving like this, what would they think of you? I'm laughing at you guys for being tortured by the students of Devil class in the interclass competition? Or am I laughing at you bunch of trash, unworthy of the Heavenly Academy? Instructor Ho's words were merciless. His words pierced the eyes of the students who were paralyzed on the ground, causing their eyes to turn red. Useless. This was an insult to a profound practitioner. No one wanted to be called trash. Do you know why you guys can't be compared to the Devil class? Instructor Chu said in a mocking tone. Chapter 1388. In the intermediate profound class 2, Devil class was their common enemy. From the high and mighty, talented genius students, they had fallen to the point of being ridiculed by everyone, even their families had abandoned them. High profound class 2 students became students of the intermediate profound class 2. Dropped 2 classes consecutively. To the arrogant students, what kind of blow was this? All of this. It was all thanks to the Devil class. All thanks to Yi Qing Luo. The students heard the instructors mentioning Devil class. The students' vision all turned towards the direction of Devil class. They discovered that Devil class who had been walking behind them, had unknowingly walked in front of them. 62 students, their footwork was in sync, in an orderly formation. There was no mess at all. What made everyone most surprised was these 62 students, other than a slight blush on their faces, there was not a single drop of sweat, nor did they hear their heavy panting. As though walking for an entire afternoon, to them, was equivalent to walking a few steps. Hearing the two instructors' words, Devil class's students stopped in their tracks, as their gazes swept over in unison. Yi Qing Luo, who was standing right in front, had a smile which didn't look like a smile. That smile. In the eyes of the intermediate profound class 2 students, that was a blatant provocation. But on seeing those students, their expressions didn't change, as though even if they walked for a few more hours, they would absolutely not complain about it. These people, were all freaking perverts? The students' inner hearts, were on the verge of collapsing. Devil class's students, are you doing this on purpose? Definitely on purpose. Insisting on putting on a brave front at this moment, is just trying to embarrass us. I've never seen such people who only care about their own selfish desires, totally disregarding the other students, it's too disgusting. The intermediate profound class 2 students grumbled in a low voice. Whereas the other classes' students, couldn't help but started complaining. They had all heard that when Yi Qing Luo was training for the freshmen, she ran 5 rounds around the academy's field. All the students couldn't hold on any longer. Yi Qing Luo was still running. The other students had no other choice, as they could only try their best to keep up. Those students whose legs had completely lost their strength, suddenly felt that Devil class was pretending to be pretentious, purposely walking so fast, and even putting on a look as though they didn't feel tired. Hearing these words, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. These people were really pampered young masters and young ladies. If they knew. On the bodies of the devil class's students, there were at least 80 caddies of weight. Would they be so frightened that they would vomit blood? If these people were only insulting her, she wouldn't be able to do anything. Right now, she didn't have the time to care about this. Rather than wasting his saliva, it was better to reason with these people. She might as well save her energy. But, these students had dragged the devil class into it. She narrowed her eyes and her long and narrow eyes landed on one of the female students in the intermediate profound class 2. Yiqing Luo wasn't unfamiliar with this female student. They had circled around Lu Shuiyu several times and insulted her several times. However, after she returned to the academy with the divine artifact, she became one of the cannon fodder girls who hugged her thighs. She was the one who started the conversation just now. These intermediate profound class 2 students were really bored to death. Lu Shuiyu, who deliberately stirred up trouble, and Yan Zhenfei, who liked to stir up trouble, had left. Now, there were a few more cannon fodder girls. These female students wanted to follow Lu Shuiyu and Yan Zhenfei's ending, using the most humiliating way to leave the academy. Yiqing Luo really couldn't understand these female students' brain circuits. Chapter 1389. The students from the intermediate profound class 2 stared at the person who walked out. Their faces were filled with anger but they didn't dare to say anything. Gradually, the discussions in the surroundings quieted down. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she gazed at the figure standing in front of her. It was Xia Yan. Why would he speak up for her at this moment? One must know that he was still a student from the intermediate profound class 2. Those who complained and accused her earlier were the majority of the students from the intermediate profound class 2. At this moment, Xia Yan totally didn't give any face to those students. Wouldn't these students bear a grudge? But, looking at those students staring at Xia Yan with an obviously fearful look, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but feel surprised. She secretly speculated on Xia Yan's identity. What student Xia said is right. It's because you can't do it yourself that you don't know how to find excuses and blame those who can do it. I really don't know how your families taught you. Instructor Ho sneered as the expression on his face turned colder. If you don't want to embarrass yourself, if you want to prove yourself, if you don't want others to think that you are not as good as the devil class, then stand up and continue walking, don't find any excuses. Those students were infuriated by Instructor Ho's words. No one wanted to embarrass themselves. No one wanted the other students to see them as a joke. They didn't want the other students to think that they were not as good as the devil class. Each and every student's competitive spirit was ignited. They gritted their teeth as they stood up and followed the team forward. Looking at the group of students who were following behind the devil class, sweating profusely yet stubbornly walking forward, the dean who was riding at the front frowned slightly. Aren't the instructors too strict? They are after all still children. In his heart, he was thinking. If these students died of exhaustion on the way, what food could he use to answer to the dark forces? From the moment they entered the Heavenly Academy, they are no longer children. Yun Duan shook his head with a face full of smiles. Although Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu's method is a little harsh, but to this group of students, it is a good training. On the other side, 5th Elder Yun Hai chimed in, the performance of the devil class this year is really surprising. With the existence of the devil class, I'm sure it will be able to motivate the other students to work even harder. Yun Hai looked at the neat formation of the devil class with satisfaction. With regards to the performance of the devil class, the elders were actually extremely appreciative. From the start to the end, the devil class's students did not express any opinions, as they followed the group obediently. It could be fast or slow. In this elder's opinion, devil class is intentionally showing off their physical strength, to give the other students a show of strength. Yun Xiang snorted lightly, as his gaze swept past Yiqing Luo in disdain. From what he saw, the students of the devil class were simply putting up a front. Second bro. Yun Duan scolded in a low voice. He glared at Yun Xiang and turned to look at the dean. Let these students persevere for a while longer. Maybe they can unleash their potential and see where their limits lie. The dean nodded. The students held on. After all, they were holding on. After walking for about an hour, there were already some students who couldn't take it anymore and collapsed. The team moved slower and slower. In the end, the headmaster still ordered them to rest for the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn before setting off. This news made the students cheer endlessly. Chapter 1390. The students fell down one by one. Lying on the ground with their legs limp, no one was willing to move a single step. Devil classes side also dispersed under Yiqing Luo's command as they randomly found a place to sit down. There were some students who remained standing, surveying their surroundings. This was what Yiqing Luo had taught everyone. No matter when, as long as they were in an unfamiliar place, they must try their best to remember everything around them. The best way was to draw out the map in their minds. In a battle, the side who was more familiar with the terrain would definitely gain the upper hand. Instructor Chu and Instructor Ho, as well as a few elders and teachers, were all observing the devil class. After seeing devil class's situation, everyone couldn't help but sigh silently. All of them were astonished. This devil class's transformation was simply too inconceivable. After Yan Zhenfei used the portraits to verify that devil class's students, they were the bunch of trash who entered the Heavenly Academy with the lowest results and were allocated to devil class. After that, these trash were bullied by the other classes using various methods. Even if the academy came forward to stop them, they were unable to avoid the students' bullying in the dark. As time passed, the academy turned a blind eye to it. In the memories of these teachers and instructors, devil class seemed to have disappeared from the academy a few years ago. Their academy's wooden token didn't have any activity. A bunch of trash. Even if they disappeared for a few years, they would absolutely not be able to stir up any big waves. The academy's teachers, none of them put this matter to heart. They had not expected devil class would use such a transformation to reappear in front of everyone. The current devil class, no matter if it was the team's coordination, or their own ability, attitude and stamina, were all incomparable to the other classes' students. Even outside, these students' vigilance and keen observation towards their surroundings. Even for them, these teachers, they might not be able to achieve the devil class's students' precision. Who was it that made these trash to have such an earth-shattering transformation? Who was it that changed them? Under such deep thoughts, the director's gaze unknowingly fell onto Long Yunzhan, who was sitting next to Yiqing Luo with a cold expression. That side profile, that cold expression. He wouldn't recognize wrongly. This devil class's class monitor. Why would he appear in devil class? Just at this moment, a commotion suddenly broke out among the students. The teachers stopped their discussion with the students and looked over. A female student flew through the air and landed heavily on the ground. A mouthful of blood overflowed from her mouth. Whereas Yiqing Luo stood at her original spot and slowly retracted her leg, as she looked at that female student with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Intermediate Profound Class 2, my devil class isn't afraid of trouble, but just don't want to stir up trouble. If you continue to play tricks in front of me, the next time, it won't just be one kick. Yiqing Luo. Stop your nonsense. Yun Xiang was the first to slap the rock and stand up. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of the dean? How did your headmaster teach you? How dare you attack your own classmate? Yiqing Luo sneered, at most I was merely defending myself. She had already poisoned my devil class, don't tell me I should still smile and thank her for poisoning my devil class. Poison? Those students who were paralyzed on the ground immediately sat up straight and looked at Yiqing Luo when they heard this word. Are you kidding me? Under the eyes of so many people, to poison the devil class? Chapter 1391. Yun Xiang naturally didn't believe it. He creased his white brows. Student Yi Qing Luo, if you want to find an excuse, you should find a better one. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, how could this student possibly poison you? Yi Qing Luo gave a cold scoff as she squinted her eyes, looking coldly at that cannon fodder female student who was lying on the ground. This student, can I trouble you to stretch out your hand for everyone to take a look? The female student held onto her chest with a pained look. Her face was pale as she shook her head hard. I didn't, I just wanted to apologize to you for the things I had complained about earlier. You suddenly struck. Saying that, she started to cry softly. As she cried, she stretched out her hand and spread it out. That slender white hand had nothing on it. When Yun Xiang saw that, his brows instantly creased into a bundle. Yi Qing Luo. What else do you have to say now? Yi Qing Luo didn't have any signs of panic as she looked at the cannon fodder female student with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Then, where's the other hand? The other hand of the female student was covering her chest. The other students all placed their gazes on the female student's chest because of Yi Qing Luo's words. The students present were mostly male students. This gaze was directly placed on a student's chest. Immediately that made that female student's ears flushed red as she gritted her teeth and stretched out that hand. Student Yi Qing Luo. I hope that you can apologize to me for your own actions. The other hand was spread out. The students' eyes widened as they looked at it. They didn't see any poison in the female student's hand. The students' gazes towards Yi Qing Luo were a little strange. Yun Xiang gave a cold harumph. Student Yi Qing Luo, your actions have completely affected the other students. Like what this female student said, you still have to apologize to her for your own actions. Elder Yun Xiang, you're indeed getting on in years and your eyes aren't working? Yi Qing Luo laughed out unrestrainedly. Her figure stretched out and she was already standing in front of that cannon fodder female student. The female student only had time to let out a terrified scream when her wrist was held tightly by Yi Qing Luo. The medicinal powder in her palm, does Elder Yun Xiang want to try it personally? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she looked at Yun Xiang. Medicinal powder? The female student widened her eyes in astonishment. She wanted to withdraw her hand. But Yi Qing Luo's grip was so tight that she was unable to struggle free. Since Yi Qing Luo didn't mention it, no one paid much attention to it. When Yi Qing Luo said that, everyone's vision fell onto the female student's palm. As expected, there was a black powder on the female student's palm. Why, you're spouting nonsense. How could there be any powder? It's probably black dust from somewhere. The female student shook her head furiously, trying to find an excuse. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Her smile was extremely sincere. Since it's just ordinary dust, why don't you lick it? As long as you can prove that this is not poison, I will apologize to you. The female student's eyes widened. Hearing what Yi Qing Luo said, she wasn't sure if her palm was really poisoned. But, it wasn't poison powder, it must be you. You want to frame me. Everyone's eyes are sharp. I've only touched your wrist. I haven't even touched your palm. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes innocently. From the start till the end, she had only grabbed the female student's wrist. This doesn't prove that it's not you. Before Yun Xiang could say the word, frame. Chapter 1392. Yun, Elder Yun Duan. The female student looked at Yun Duan in fear. I really didn't. Then how do you explain the poison powder in your hand? Yun Duan asked in a deep voice. The female student was trembling in fear as she shook her head furiously. I don't know. I don't know why there is poison powder. I obviously put in a pill. It's a pill. The roaring stopped abruptly. The female student's face turned pale. Immediately, her face turned ashen. She actually confessed without being pressed. When she met with Yiqing Luo's eyes, which were filled with ridicule, the female student finally understood. She had fallen into Yiqing Luo's trap. Because the academy allowed the students to walk towards the southern continent, they specially prepared a water source pearl for every class. The water source pearl was similar to a space pocket. It was specially used to store water. One water source pearl could probably store enough water for 100 people to drink for a day. The female student was thinking of poisoning the water source pearl in the devil class, but she did not expect to be caught by Yiqing Luo. That was what happened after that. This time you are heading to the southern continent for an exchange with the other academies. From the moment you were selected by the director and brought to the exchange, you are no longer students of the same class but students of the same academy. Yun Duan's voice was calm and gentle. But indistinctly, he emitted a kind of awe-inspiring aura which made everyone listen to his teachings in awe. In the academy, you can form cliques and the academy will not interfere. But once you are out of the academy, you must always remember that you are the students of the Heavenly Academy. Every word and action of yours represents the academy. If the other academies see your class fighting and killing each other, how will they judge you and what will they say about you? Do you think you have not embarrassed yourself enough during the interclass competition? Still want to continue to embarrass yourself in the other continents? Yun Duan's words became louder and louder. His words caused all the students to lower their heads. If you have the thought of embarrassing yourself and attend the exchange, you can scram back to the Heavenly Academy now. This sentence made the students even more apprehensive. Immediately, Yun Duan's gaze turned coldly to the female student who was kneeling on the ground with her wrist held by Yiqing Luo. In front of the teachers, you dare to harm your own classmate. This kind of student, the Heavenly Academy does not dare to accept. This meant. Was he going to force her to leave? The female student was terrified. She wiped away her tears and shook her head. Elder Yunduan, I won't dare to do it again, I won't dare. However, Yunduan's cold expression made the female student's heart turn cold. If he was forced to leave by the Heavenly Academy, her future would be ruined. She had already spread the news to her family and the other heiresses that she had been selected to participate in the Academy exchange meet. She was chased back with her tail between her legs. She would never be able to make a comeback in this lifetime. No matter what, she couldn't be expelled from the academy. The female student suddenly knelt down in Zi Qianqian's direction. Goddess Qianqian, I beg you to save me. I cannot be expelled from the academy, I cannot. Zi Qianqian's face was ashen as he glared at the female student. Suddenly hearing the female student's words, her expression changed. But her expression didn't escape Yiqing Luo's eyes. Student Su, I really cannot agree with your actions, Zi Qianqian said indifferently. Her beautiful face was indifferent. The female student's eyes widened as her body slumped to the ground. Qian goddess, you. Chapter 1393. Zi Qianqian's tone changed as her beautiful eyes gazed towards the direction of the director. Director, Qianqian feels that the matter of leaving the academy should be decided after the end of the exchange meet. Why does student Zi say so? The director asked. Zi Qianqian smiled, I don't know what kind of problems the headquarters will throw at us during this exchange meet. One more person means one more strength. Moreover, student Su had at most attempted to poison us, and now that she has repented, why not let her stay and give her a chance to make up for her mistake? Zi Qianqian would always follow them to the exchange meet every year. She was no stranger to the exchange meet. Every time the exchange meet, the headquarters would always come up with various problems to make things difficult for the various academies' directors and students. Zi Qianqian's words made the director and the other elders nod their heads in agreement. Upon seeing this, Zi Qianqian increased his persuasion. Student Su is definitely not willing to leave the Heavenly Academy. With this opportunity, he will definitely perform well in the exchange meet and live up to the dean's expectations. Finishing her words, she looked at the female student. Student Su, do you agree? Yes, yes, yes. Director, I will definitely perform well. I will absolutely not let you down. The female student quickly kowtowed. The director had no intention of letting the female student leave just like that. This was the food that he had carefully picked out. Not a single one less. Immediately, he followed Zi Qianqian's words and nodded. Since student Zi has pleaded for you, I will forgive you this time. If there's a next time, I will punish you severely. Thank you, director. Thank you, director. No one asked about the devil class's wishes. He didn't even say a word of concern. The devil class students indignantly wanted justice but were stopped by Yi Qing Luo. In the Heavenly Academy, the director's words were greater than the heavens. Whatever the director had decided, they should obey. If they were to make a fuss, they might even be labeled as disrespectful to the director or disobedient. She didn't want the devil class to be tainted with any bad reputation. So we're just going to let it go? Tong Zi Qing suppressed her anger and asked coldly. Of course I won't let this go. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. A student from intermediate class 2 dares to poison us openly, don't you find it strange? Tong Ziqing frowned. Is there someone behind this? Zi Qianqian isn't someone who likes to help others. Would she speak up for a female student who is about to be expelled from the academy for no reason? Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she smiled thoughtfully. The devil class students were enlightened. Zi Qianqian had always been arrogant, so why would he speak up for other students? Obviously, Zi Qianqian was the one who ordered the female cannon fodder to poison him. But Yi Qing Luo still hadn't figured out what was Zi Qianqian's motive for doing so. Everyone treated it as an interlude. Soon after, the dean told the students to set off again. The expressions of the devil class students did not change, far ahead. The other students refused to admit defeat and wanted to chase after him, but in the end, they could only retreat in defeat. Along the way, Long Yunzhan had been secretly observing the conversation between Zi Qianqian and the cannon fodder lady. Perhaps it was because of Yi Qing Luo's display of power. The two of them didn't have much contact. It took them 6 days to reach the South Billow continent, and nothing else happened. The steward arranged by the main courtyard led them to the courtyard of the Heavenly Academy. All the students directly fell onto the ground, sitting limply on the ground. Their mouths kept on wailing, and there were some who cried out excitedly. They had finally arrived. Chapter 1394. The main academy had specially set up a residence which was comparable to a palace. There were numerous courtyards set up in the residence. The courtyard, as the name suggested, was specially arranged by the main academy for each academy to stay in when they came to participate in the exchange meet. Heavenly Academy was the best academy over the years. Naturally, he moved into the largest courtyard in the main academy, which was also the first sky dorm. Without the permission of the Heavenly Dean, most people would not dare to barge into the sky lodgings. Because of this, towards the students who had no image and slumped on the ground, the dean didn't blame them too much. He only told the students that they had rested well and returned to their respective rooms to wait for the summons. Following that, the dean brought Elder Yun Duan and Elder Yun Xiang and hurriedly headed towards the main academy to report. Compared to those students who were slumped on the ground, on the contrary, devil class's expression didn't change and they weren't even panting. 60 over people walked directly towards the dormitory area at the backyard of the courtyard. Hey! You all are thinking. A few female students stared at devil class's back view as they gritted their teeth to stop them. But their legs seemed to be filled with lead, totally unable to stand up. Hence, the students who had fallen on the ground could only look on helplessly as that bunch of people walked into the dormitory area. Su Xiaolian, who was also that cannon fodder girl, sat up and looked at Zi Qianqian, who was also drenched in sweat, as she lowered her voice, "Goddess Qianqian, they will snatch your room away." Zi Qianqian's expression turned ugly. She thought that her physical fitness was considered rather good. After walking continuously for 6 days. In these 6 days, she had been competing with devil classes students non-stop. Walking till the skin on her feet peeled off and the pain was unbearable. She didn't even make a sound. She just didn't want to be belittled by devil classes students. But she didn't expect that. These 6 days, she had completely used up all her energy. But she couldn't even be compared to a low-leveled student in devil class. This made the usually arrogant Zi Qianqian's self-esteem completely take a blow. Hearing Su Xiaolian's words, Zi Qianqian restrained the stern look in her eyes and snorted coldly, "The dormitory is arranged by the dean, which room she wants to sleep in, it's not up to her." In actual fact, Yiqing Luo had indeed stayed at the place where Zi Qianqian usually stayed during the annual exchange meet. After the group of students had rested enough, a teacher came to urge them to rush to the headquarters to meet with the deans and students of the other schools. Only then did they get up from the ground and walk towards the dormitory area. Zi Qianqian was escorted by Su Xiaolian's group of intermediate profound class 2 students to the largest room in the middle of the dormitory area. The moment he pushed the door open, he saw Yiqing Luo sitting by the bed, hugging a snow-white kitten, not knowing what she was whispering. Zi Qianqian's face sank. Su Xiaolian shouted sternly, "Yiqing Luo. This was Goddess Qianqian's room. You actually dared to snatch Qianqian's room, who gave you the guts?" Following closely behind them were 5 other female students. They were the same group of cannon fodder girls who used to suck up to Lu Shuiyu. Now, the intermediate profound class 2 was without a leader. They set their sights on Zi Qianqian. "Exactly. Yiqing Luo, how dare you snatch Goddess Qianqian's room? If this goes to the dean, let's see how you account for it." Yiqing Luo was originally hugging Qi and discussing official matters with Qi. Suddenly the door was pushed open and a bunch of women pointed at their noses and scolded. No matter who it was, their mood would be bad. Chapter 1395. Su Xiaolian turned pale with fright and subconsciously hid behind Zi Qianqian. "Get lost." Cold words without the slightest emotion. She just raised her eyes and exuded a strong chill. Not only those female students. Even Zi Qianqian was intimidated by this chill. But at this time, Zi Qianqian must not give in. Since young, she had never suffered any humiliation. The only time was when Yiqing Luo humiliated her. How could she give in to Yiqing Luo? "Student Yiqing Luo, this room is my room." Zi Qianqian also released her aura and said coldly, "The room here is not something you can stay in just because you want to." Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and laughed out loud, "Your room? Is your name pasted on it or is it stained with your scent? You." Zi Qianqian was furious. This was obviously treating Zi Qianqian and the beast as the same kind. Yiqing Luo brushed the long hair on her cheeks and smiled sweetly, "This room is not something I can stay in just because I want to, nor is it something you can stay in just because you want to." Zi Qianqian clenched her fists, "So, you are not willing to give in? Why? Want to fight?" Yiqing Luo ridiculed, "Do you think a loser has the right to clamor in front of me?" Zi Qianqian's face darkened and turned green and white. Losing to Yiqing Luo in the last round of the interclass competition was the biggest humiliation in Zi Qianqian's life. And now Yiqing Luo was using it to mock her. When had Zi Qianqian ever suffered such humiliation? The anger in her heart suddenly ignited. Before Zi Qianqian could get angry, Su Xiaoyan had already retorted on behalf of Zi Qianqian, "It's just a win, what's there to show off?" "That's still a win." Yi Qing Luo smiled. "You were lucky. Our goddess deliberately gave in to you." Su Xiaoyan's face turned red. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile, "That's still a win. Don't be too proud. One match is nothing. This is not an excuse for you to forcibly occupy our goddess's room." Su Xiaoyan stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo and stammered. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and maintained her smile, "That's still a win." You. Su Xiaoyan was furious. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? She had learned something new. "Can't you change your excuse?" Yi Qing Luo's long eyelashes fluttered as she blinked and smiled innocently, "No. Night. Qing. Fall." Su Xiaoyan couldn't bear it any longer as she pounced forward and was about to give Yi Qing Luo a tight slap. He had yet to reach Yi Qing Luo. He suddenly felt a dull pain in his chest. His body was flung backward heavily. Ah! Su Xiaoyan's body sank and crashed into Zi Qianqian and a group of female students. Zi Qianqian waved his hand in disgust and threw her to the side. Su Xiaoyan's delicate body hit the wooden table beside her and fell to the ground. She clutched her chest and pointed at Yi Qing Luo, You actually dare to lay a hand on me, I'm going to tell the director." Yi Qing Luo withdrew her leg and gracefully leaned against the bedside. "Are you still a child? Why do you always want to tell on me?" What's more, that kick of hers didn't hurt Su Xiaoyan at all. It was Zi Qianqian's push that hurt Su Xiaoyan. She didn't even know who was the one who hurt her, she deserved to be taken advantage of. Su Xiaoyan was so angry that she almost cried. After walking for a few days, her body was already exhausted. Chapter 1396. If there's nothing else, then scram. Don't disturb my rest. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand impatiently. He didn't want to waste his time with this group of stupid people. She still had business to discuss with Chi-Chi. "Just you wait. When we see the courtyard." Su Xiaoyan was about to say something harsh, but her arm was suddenly pinched. She groaned in pain and turned to look behind her. His face turned pale and he shut his mouth. The female students didn't say anything else. They just turned around and left the dormitory. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Su Xiaoyan's behavior made her pay more attention to it. Yi Qing Luo summoned Shiju and made it follow behind those female students, reporting their whereabouts at any time. Shiju received the order and that palm-sized body turned into an afterimage as it chased up to the footsteps of those female students. The room quietened down. Yi Qing Luo released her perception and confirmed that there was no one else around. Then, he patted Chi-Chi's little head again and asked softly, "You said that you felt a strong calling from here?" Chi-Chi nodded her little head and said in a childish voice, "It's a very, very, very strong feeling. It's been calling for Chi-Chi." After that, it pouted and said in a wrong tone, "Master is the only one who can summon Chi-Chi. Why can Chi-Chi feel other summoning? Did Master give Chi-Chi to someone else?" Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh out. She hugged Mu Chi-Chi tightly and kissed it on the forehead. "Mu Chi-Chi is so cute. How could I bear to give Mu Chi-Chi to someone else? Don't worry, I will solve this problem." Chi-Chi rubbed herself against her chest like a spoiled child. "Chi-Chi, go back to the pet space first. I will take some time to bring you to the place where you were summoned to check out the situation." Yi Qing Luo comforted in a gentle voice. Chi-Chi acted coquettishly for a while more before returning to the pet space. The gentle smile on Yi Qing Luo's face gradually faded. She narrowed her eyes and furrowed her brows. This strong feeling of being summoned. This feeling only appeared after they entered the South Tide continent. In other words, there was a mysterious force in the South Billow continent that was summoning Chi-Chi. But Shiju, Kitty Li, and Long Yun-Zhan didn't seem to have such a feeling. In that case, that mysterious power only targeted holy beasts? Old Man Tsang, I have a guess. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment and decided to discuss with Old Man Tsang. This old man thinks the same as you, Old Man Tsang replied indifferently. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Old Man Tsang thought so too, in other words, her guess was very likely to be true. Want to go take a look? Old Man Tsang saw through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. If it's true, then we must make a trip there. But wait till the matter at the main courtyard has come to an end. After all, this concerns Chi-Chi. I cannot make any mistakes. But Yiqing Luo didn't know. On a big tree not far from the dormitory, two figures could be vaguely seen among the lush leaves. Ah Wu, isn't this girl a little interesting? The person who asked the question lazily leaned against the tree trunk. That person was dressed in a moon-white brocade robe with a golden outline around his waist. His jet-black hair was tied up by a plain-colored hairband, making him look extremely messy. It was an extremely delicate face. It was a little handsome and a little feminine. His pair of long and narrow almond-shaped eyes further outlined his demonic beauty. Chapter 1397. Beside the white-robed young man sat a cold and impatient-looking black-robed young man. That black-robed young man looked extremely handsome, and even though he was sitting beside the white-robed young man, he didn't lose any of his brilliance. Young Master Mo, if you're pulling me here to squat at a lady's corner and peep at her, I don't have the time to accompany you. The black-robed young man said coldly. The white-clothed youth immediately grabbed his wrist. His long and narrow phoenix eyes revealed a shimmering luster. It's not like I don't know. Ah Wu, you've been wholeheartedly focused on practicing martial arts. You don't have any particular interest in women. I've pulled you here because this girl has her merits. The black-robed young man's brows creased as his brows creased tightly as he looked through the half-opened window at that indescribably beautiful young lady in the room. No matter how he looked at her, he couldn't see any redeeming qualities. The only redeeming quality was that face. But he had no interest towards women at all. No matter how good-looking his face was, it couldn't be compared to his martial arts practice. I heard that Heavenly Academy's students had walked all the way from the West Continent to the South Continent. The white-robed young man rubbed his chin. After a few days of walking, this young lady's class seemed to be fine. His handsome brows rose. If it was you, can you maintain the same state as her after walking for a few days, without being affected at all? The black-robed young man's eyes flashed slightly. The white-robed young man didn't miss the black-robed young man's expression as his lips curled into an evil smile as he stretched out his hand and placed it on his shoulder. A few days ago, I've heard of devil classes Yiqing Luo's name, and I've always been very interested in this mysterious class. I'm very excited to be able to meet you tomorrow. Suddenly, the young lady in the room raised her head abruptly. A pair of crystal-clear eyes which seemed to be inlaid with luminous pearls stared unblinkingly at the direction of the two young men. Who? A cold and sweet voice was heard from the room. That pair of charming eyes were filled with a biting cold glare in an instant. Just by getting close, they felt their entire bodies turning cold. The black and white young men's expressions changed slightly. They exchanged glances with each other. From each other's eyes, they saw the same astonishment. That young lady actually discovered their presence? Before they could be surprised, the girl who was originally sitting in the room had already rushed out of the door and was heading in their direction. The black and white youth suppressed the surprise in his heart and released his mystic rank. By the time Yiqing Luo appeared on top of that huge tree, there was no one there. Only the faint fragrance of bamboo wafted into the air. It was fresh, elegant, and refreshing. There was indeed someone. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she stared vigilantly at the surroundings. She had just arrived at South Billow Continent and she was already being followed? Who was the person peeping at her from the tree? How did he manage to escape under her nose? Could it be, were they from the dark forces? That was impossible, the dark forces had been thrown into disarray by the Arch Palace. He couldn't find an opportunity to send a portion of the dark forces to the South Wave Continent to chase after her. Then, who was the person he sensed just now? He was vigilantly pondering and exploring his surroundings. Suddenly, a small black thing leaped onto her shoulder. Its furry little head rubbed against Yiqing Luo's face. Shiju. Yiqing Luo hugged Shiju and gently rubbed its head. Did you manage to find out any news? Chapter 1398. From Shiju's mouth, Yiqing Luo found out. After Su Xiaolian, Zi Qianqian, and the others left the dormitory area, they headed straight for the headquarters. As he was walking, he didn't forget to ridicule Yiqing Luo for not being able to make it in time for the banquet. As one of the students participating in the Academy Exchange Conference, the entire class refused to attend. This was a blatant disrespect to the headquarters. It turned out that those people had concealed the fact that the dean had summoned all the students to gather at the headquarters. Purposely not telling her about this news was so that the main courtyard would blacklist the devil class. After Yiqing Luo heard everything, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. These people really did not take the instructor's words to heart. They thought that if the devil class did not answer the summons and went to the headquarters would only blame the devil class. This was not the Heavenly Academy or the West Continent. All of them represented the Heavenly Academy as a whole. She won't be there. The general courtyard would only target the Academy. The outside world would only say that the Heavenly Academy was disrespectful to the headquarters. And would not say that it was the devil class who was disrespectful to the headquarters. Had the intelligence of these women been eaten by beasts? How could he be so stupid? Risking his future for a moment of pleasure. Only they could do that. Wasn't Zi Qianqian known as a genius student? Wasn't he extremely smart? How could he not think of these consequences? A woman's jealousy is truly terrifying. Old man Tsang sighed with emotion. Yiqing Luo was speechless. Perhaps it was because she had never experienced the so-called jealousy. Thus, he could not understand why Zi Qianqian would act out of jealousy. She put Shiju back into the pet space and immediately informed the other brothers to gather at the general courtyard. Outside the first courtyard of the Tianzi residence, two figures watched everything that happened inside from afar. The corner of the white-clothed youth's mouth rose, and he laughed evilly. Ah Wu, that's a low-level phantom beast, right? The youth in black narrowed his eyes and pondered. How did she discover us? That's why yours truly said that this lass is interesting. The white-clothed youth raised his brows, and his smile became even more devilish. Ah Wu, I feel that the exchange meet this time will be very interesting. Inside the general courtyard, students from the various academies arrived one after another. Gradually, the spacious hall was filled with people. There were at least 100 academies participating in this exchange meet. Even the smallest academy had nearly 50 students. The steward of the headquarters was holding a name list and reading out the names of the academies that had arrived. In the headquarters, admission was not based on one's status or position in the academy. It was first come, first served, so you had to queue up. The dean looked at the tens of students behind him and frowned. Why aren't any of the students from the devil class here? This is not a place for them to be willful. Zi Qianqian pacified the dean's emotions. Sir Dean, whether the devil class is around or not, it doesn't matter to us. Haven't we students been accompanying you all these years? It doesn't matter if they come or not, but this is a group activity of the academy. If the devil class doesn't come after so long, how will the other academies look at the Black Academy? Yunxiang said with dissatisfaction. The dean's face darkened. Zi Qianqian, Su Xiaolian, and the others exchanged glances and hid the smile in their eyes. Then, they obediently followed behind the headmaster. Until the butler announced the Heavenly Academy. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Only then did the dean's expression soften a little. Chapter 1399. The arrival of the Heavenly Academy had attracted the attention of everyone from the other academies. The Heavenly Academy had become a laughing stock in this round of interclass competition. Students cheated, colluding with the dark forces. There was also the class of trash that was known as trash. It became a dark horse that crushed those self-proclaimed elites until not even dregs were left. Especially the match where Yiqing Luo single-handedly tortured Zi Qianqian. It was simply breathtaking. As a result, all the major academies were suspicious of the Heavenly Academy's miraculous class of gods. As a result, everyone was holding the attitude of watching a joke, watching the Heavenly Academy fall from the altar, to the fall, becoming a joke. Their gazes searched among the Heavenly Academy's team. But there was no sign of devil class. The Heavenly Dean had already led Zi Qianqian and the rest to greet the Dean. The Dean of the General Hospital also heard about the match from the Vice Dean. He brought up the topic of the interclass competition and exchanged some pleasantries with the Dean. Immediately he asked, "Why didn't I see the dark horse class of your academy?" The Dean's face stiffened. Yun Duan immediately answered and smiled amiably, "I've let the Dean see a joke, those kids." He hadn't finished his sentence. But he was interrupted by a mocking laughter. "Devil class's students are very arrogant, I'm afraid they won't be coming." The person who spoke was Su Xiaolian. The Dean and Yun Duan's expression changed. Su Xiaolian's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. At least those academies sitting in the front row could hear it clearly. Immediately, they started gossiping. The Dean's expression was slightly awkward. Perhaps he had not expected it and had never met a student who would ridicule his own classmate in public. Su Xiaolian saw everyone's gaze on her. He only felt that he was able to send the devil class, to send Yiqing Luo to hell, so the words that came out of his mouth couldn't be stopped. "General Academy Director, you only need to see our academy's thousands of goddesses and that's enough. Devil class will not be coming." Student Su. Zi Qianqian frowned and pretended to be angry. "Don't talk nonsense. This is not a place for you to behave atrociously." "I'm not talking nonsense." Su Xiaolian pouted her lips aggrievedly. She still wanted to say something but Dean Xian bellowed, "Enough. Don't spout nonsense. Shut up." Then, he looked at the Dean of the General Hospital with an apologetic expression. "My lord, it's my fault for not disciplining them properly and disturbing your mood. I apologize to everyone here." As he spoke, he glanced at Yunxiang beside him. Yunxiang understood and took a pot of wine and a wine cup from the waiter. He poured a full cup of wine and presented it to the headmaster with both hands. The Dean of the Heavenly Academy had an ugly look on his face as he suppressed his displeasure. "Dean, your Heavenly Academy is really getting more and more backward. The students you teach are of such quality." The Dean smiled apologetically. He raised the wine in his cup and was about to finish it in one gulp. But suddenly they heard a cool and elegant voice coming from the door. "The Heavenly Academy Devil class is late, please forgive us seniors." At the entrance of the hall, a beautiful lady dressed in a green and white uniform led a group of young and handsome boys and girls over. Gentle and courteous smiles appeared on their young faces. Chapter 1400. Devil class's student is here to seek forgiveness from the various seniors. Yiqing Luo stood in front of her brothers as she cupped her fists towards the principal with sincerity and sincerity. The vice principal who was sitting by the side whispered into the principal's ear, "She is Devil Class's student Yiqing Luo." Upon hearing Yiqing Luo's name, the principal's eyes lit up as he stared at Yiqing Luo and laughed loudly. "It's good that Devil Class's students are able to rush over, it's too serious to seek forgiveness, it's alright." The principal had always liked young and promising children. In the interclass competition, Yiqing Luo's performance was simply too dazzling. The principal had long been interested in Yiqing Luo. And when he met Yiqing Luo again, and saw her sincere attitude in admitting her mistake, his heart liked her even more. This is the famous Devil Class, heroes indeed come from the youngsters. Look at these children, they look so handsome. The one seated on the left was the principal of Nan Tao Academy, who was second only to Heavenly Academy. Nan Tao and Heavenly Academy's principal had been fighting openly and covertly for several years in order to fight for the best academy. Now that they met with such a situation, they naturally wouldn't let go of this chance to embarrass Heavenly Academy. Hearing Nan Tao's words, Yiqing Luo's face didn't reveal any arrogance or conceit. There wasn't even a joyous expression. She was natural and unrestrained as she smiled appropriately. "I'm indebted to Nan Tao's principal's praise and high hopes. Devil Class really can't afford to be famous." Pausing for a moment, her gaze was firm, "But I believe that based on our hard work, one day in future, we will be able to become famous like what Nan Tao Academy said, and not let Nan Tao Academy down." Nan Tao Academy's principal choked. He couldn't even say a single word. Looking at Nan Tao Academy's steely green expression, the surrounding students burst out laughing. All of them were praising Yiqing Luo for her ambition. In actual fact, they were praising this young lady's wit. Heavenly Academy's principal's expression had also eased up from the surrounding praises. He held onto his wine glass as he looked at Yiqing Luo with an amiable smile. "You children, it's such a coincidence that Sir wants to meet all of you, come over and greet him." Towards the changes in the Heavenly Academy, the students of the Devil Class did not show any signs of surprise. Instead, they obediently and respectfully greeted the headmaster of the headquarters. The dean of the General Hospital smiled and praised him. He then asked the dean to lead them to their seats. How could Nantao's dean, who had lost face, let go of this opportunity? From the words of the Heavenly Academy students just now, it was obvious that they were deliberately targeting the students of the Devil Class. Anyone with discerning eyes could tell that the Heavenly Academy was having internal strife. "Wait. Dean Xian, just now I heard from the female student beside you that the students from the Devil Class are disdainful to attend the banquet of the Central Courtyard's gathering. Don't you need to explain this?" He raised his eyebrows with a righteous look on his face. "Students of Devil Class, why are you late?" President Nan Tao lowered his voice and said in a bewitching manner, "No matter what the reason is, as long as you tell us why you're late, the teachers here will definitely uphold justice for you." The twists and turns between the students. These deans were naturally aware of this. Who wouldn't be able to tell that those students were ostracizing the Devil Class students? As long as they gave the Devil Class students a little benefit, telling them clearly about the internal strife between the students. The news of the internal strife between the students. Chapter 1401. This was exactly what Dean Nantao had in mind. The Heavenly Dean's face sank. What does Dean Nantao mean by that? As the headmaster of the academy, I naturally do not wish to see the students suffer any grievances. Dean Nantao put on a righteous and awe-inspiring look as he stood up and looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Young lady, just boldly say it out. This dean will definitely stand up for you." "You." Principal Xian's face turned cold. His face was filled with rage, but he was unable to forcefully stop Yiqing Luo's words. Otherwise, it would only make people more suspicious. The Heavenly Dean's anger rose as he glared at Su Xiaolian. if it wasn't under the watchful eyes of the public. He really wanted to strangle this rumor-mongering female student to death. Su Xiaoyan felt a chill run down her spine and subconsciously grabbed Zi Qianqian's sleeve. However, Zi Qianqian shook him off mercilessly. It was obvious that he was prepared to draw a clear line between them. The students of the devil class. How did they know that the headquarters had set up the first banquet of the exchange meet? Why did they arrive at such a coincidental time? If Yiqing Luo directly said that they totally didn't tell her about the matter of the main courtyard inviting the students to attend the banquet, Zi Qianqian would definitely take the blame. He threw all of them onto himself. At that time, the dean would definitely not be lenient. Su Xiaoyan's eyes reddened as she trembled in fear. Everyone's eyes were all concentrated on Yiqing Luo. Everyone looked like they were watching a good show, waiting for Yiqing Luo's reply. The reason for being late? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her long and narrow eyes looked towards Nantao Dean. That glance made Dean Nantao's face light up with joy. He nodded his head vigorously and smiled amiably. Yes, don't hide anything. Sir, and we are all here, don't be afraid. Yiqing. Heavenly Dean frowned, trying to remind Yiqing Luo in a low voice. But he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo's laughter. Yiqing Luo's smile was like a blooming gorgeous rose, giving off an unparalleled charm. Every smile, every frown, every movement seemed to be able to tug at people's hearts. The surrounding people of the academy were already unable to shift their gazes away from her. Beautiful, her beauty was breathtaking and intoxicating. Even Zi Qianqian, who was known as the #1 beauty in the Heavenly Academy, was completely suppressed by Yiqing Luo's majestic aura. This girl, he was definitely a source of trouble. It was no wonder that the relationship between the Heavenly Academy students and the Devil class was in such a deadlock. Not a single academy representative spoke to break the deadlock. Yiqing Luo's smile was elegant as she replied politely, "The reason why Devil class is late is nothing that cannot be told to the various teachers." Dean Nantao was delighted. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo continued, "Because of this trip to South Waves Continent, the Academy specially allowed us to walk all the way to South Waves Continent's Valley Wind City in order to train our stamina, which took a total of 6 days." The hall was in an uproar. They had more or less heard about the news of the Heavenly Academy walking on foot. However, none of the academies took it seriously. After all, over the years, the Academy Exchange Conference wasn't just a simple exchange. There was also competition between students. The various academies all wished that their students could eat and sleep well, so that they could fight with their best spirits. Who would be willing to waste the energy of the students on the way? Unexpectedly, the Heavenly Academy really did it. Chapter 1402. It's our devil class's fault for being late, so how can we trouble Dean Nantao to help us plead for leniency? Yiqing Luo bowed deeply to the dean. "Sir is kind and generous, not haggling with us kids. Qing Luo feels guilty and punished myself with a glass of wine. May all the teachers forgive devil class's behavior." Saying that, she stood up straight and picked up a glass of wine from the waiter's hand, draining it in one gulp. Decisive and direct action. Appropriate and humble words. Winning the favor of many of the teachers present. This was an intelligent girl. Knowing how to shoulder all the responsibility on herself. Knowing how to clear the academy of any negative comments. As compared to those female students who spoke out about the discord between themselves and their classmates. Devil class's student Yiqing Luo was the truly intelligent female student. If their academy had such students who were not united in front of outsiders, they would absolutely expel that student from the academy. In case they disturbed the academy's peace. Dean Xian's expression eased up. The gaze he shot towards Yiqing Luo was filled with sincerity and warmth. Yiqing Luo wasn't considered stupid. Dean Xian was extremely delighted by Yi Qing Luo's words as he laughed out loud, "Good lass. Good lass, quickly follow your dean to your seat and have a good rest." Yi Qing Luo led the devil class students to express her gratitude. Following that, she followed Dean Xian to the first seat on the right. The 100 or so students lined up one after another. Yi Qing Luo had gained the fondness of the dean earlier, and she was after all the champion class in the Heavenly Academy. Dean Xian arranged devil class's seat right at the front. Beside Yi Qing Luo were Long Yunzhan and Yan Xiaoyi. Next to them were Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai. Some were happy while others were worried. Yi Qing Luo's words earlier were totally flawless. But in Dean Nan Tao's ears, it was obvious that she was mocking him. Mocking that he was narrow-minded and only knew how to make use of children to achieve his own goals. He admitted that Yi Qing Luo's sarcasm was right. But he was ridiculed to such a state by a student in front of the various academies' deans. How could he tolerate this? At this moment, Dean Nan Tao not only hated the Heavenly Academy for snatching his position as the #1 academy, he also hated the bunch of yellow-haired brats in devil class. To put it bluntly, this exchange conference banquet was actually a welcoming banquet. The headmaster of the General Academy routinely asked the deans of each academy about the current situation of the academies. Following that, he used the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition to praise the devil class. After 3 rounds of drinks, the director of the General Hospital finally revealed the main purpose of today's visit. A few days ago, I invited the famous martial arts fanatic of the Nirvana realm, Mr. Gue Wu. Ghost warrior? All the deans sucked in a breath of cold air. Soon after, he looked around, wanting to see what the legendary ghost martial artist looked like. In the Nirvana realm, the ghost martial artist could be considered as a first-rate expert. He did not compete with Xian Qi, only with physical combat. There was probably no one in the world who could be his opponent. This person loved to practice martial arts and was a complete martial arts fanatic. And he especially liked to find people to spar with. There was a taboo in sparring with him. That was, since it was a spar, then it could only be physical combat and absolutely could not use Xian Qi. If the opponent dared to use Xian Qi during the spar, the outcome would definitely be extremely tragic. Don't think that just because the ghost martial artist was a martial arts fanatic, he didn't have a profound grade. Chapter 1403. When Gue Wu's name appeared, the representatives of the various academies were unable to contain the excitement in their hearts. In previous years, students from the various academies would display what they have learned in the academies. Said the dean of the General Hospital with a benevolent smile on his face. It wasn't hard to tell that he was in an extremely good mood after inviting Gue Wu over. For this year's exchange meet, this lord feels that it would be better to assign the students to the Ghost Martial School and let them undergo 7 days of training. After that, the students of the various academies will compete with each other. What do you all think? All the academies were shocked. All of them nodded in agreement. How could they have any objections? He could be trained by a ghost warrior. To them, this was a great honor. How could they possibly refuse? The students were also excited. No one wanted to miss this opportunity. Even Zi Qianqian clenched his fists in excitement. As for the devil class, their expressions were still as calm as before. Zi Qianqian saw this and only sneered in disdain, thinking that Yi Qing Luo and these lowly trash didn't know who Gue Wu was. Ghost warrior? Yi Qing Luo mumbled this name softly, as she glanced sideways at Long Yunzhan. Martial fanatics training will definitely be of great help to us. Long Yunzhan lightly nodded his head. But there might be problems in the competition. His clear blue eyes glanced in Zi Qianqian's direction. This was indeed a problem. The competition after the training was the academy's competition. As for Zi Qianqian and the others, it was obvious that they would not coexist peacefully with the devil class, not to mention working together. From the moment he walked into the hall, he had been clearly provoked by Dean Nantao's words. Yiqing Luo was almost certain that Zi Qianqian and the others had probably done something stupid. The other academies were likely to take advantage of this point to deal with the Heavenly Academy in the competition. Whether they want to help or not, it's up to us. Yan Xiaoyi cast a disdainful glance at Zi Qianqian, who was beside her, and sneered. They don't have a sense of teamwork, but we don't. That's enough. That's right. We don't need their help. Kitty Li, who was sitting behind them, chimed in. Kitty Li's voice carried the soft murmur of a cat, her voice soft and gentle. But Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai, who were sitting in the front row, heard it clearly. Zi Qianqian's expression darkened as he stared coldly at Kitty Li. Before they could open their mouths, they heard Wei Beilai's displeased voice ring out, "You can rest assured about this. We are students of the elite class after all. Compared to trash like you who only managed to cultivate to the profound rank by using some kind of crooked method, we definitely won't drag you down. But you guys, don't give me any trouble." When Yiqing Luo heard that, she laughed instead of getting angry. Her long and narrow eyes curved, and she smiled happily. "You're right, we can't ask too much of you. As long as you don't give us any trouble, that's enough." The devil class students behind him all burst out in laughter. Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai's faces were ashen as they suppressed their anger. Sitting at the front, the Heavenly Dean and the two elders, Yun Yun and Yun Xiang, sensed something strange behind them and gave them a warning glance. The banquet came to an end under the atmosphere of all the academies hiding daggers in their smiles, all kinds of conspiracies, and all kinds of schemes. At the end of the banquet, the main courtyard's dean specially asked the devil class to stay. "Tomorrow's training, you have to double your efforts. This lord thinks highly of you." The main courtyard's dean personally instructed. Chapter 1404. This devil class, how did they manage to capture the principal's heart? How could they even get the principal's personal instructions? Over the years, only the devil class had enjoyed such treatment. Devil class and the rest humbly thanked the principal. Following that, they left the Heavenly Dean's entourage. Due to the envious gazes from the other deans, the Heavenly Dean's vanity was satisfied. So much so that along the way, he didn't give the devil class any face. He even changed his usual behavior and would chat with Yiqing Luo from time to time. Yun Duan also chimed in by the side, praising Yiqing Luo. Along the way, it was bustling with laughter. On the contrary, Zi Qianqian and his entourage remained silent. Devil class was the center of attention. On the contrary, she was a student of the Heavenly Academy's class of gods, a proud daughter of heaven. She couldn't even compare to a devil class. During the entire banquet, no one mentioned her, Zi Qianqian. Everyone's attention was placed on devil class, on Yiqing Luo. "Goddess Qianqian, don't be angry, they won't be able to shine for long," Su Xiaoyan whispered into Zi Qianqian's ear. She had just opened her mouth when Zi Qianqian's cold eyes swept past her. Zi Qianqian's expression was sinister. Because of jealousy, it revealed a bone-piercing chill. "It's all your fault. How dare you spout nonsense in front of Sir? If not for this, Sir would not remember devil class. Remember Yiqing Luo, that slut." Su Xiaoyan hung her head aggrievedly. Weren't these the words Zi Qianqian had instructed her previously? As long as she found an opportunity, she would think of ways to embarrass devil class. To make the principal of the Heavenly Academy feel disgusted at the mention of devil class? But these words, Su Xiaoyan didn't dare to say it out. "Goddess Qianqian, don't worry, next time." There won't be a next time. Su Xiaoyan's eyes flashed a trace of ruthlessness. "Tomorrow, won't Sir Gue Wu give us training?" Sir Guo Wu is a complete martial arts fanatic, we can borrow Sir Guo Wu's strength to give devil class a heavy blow. Zi Qianqian narrowed his eyes. Is Sir Guo Wu someone we can make use of? Doesn't devil class like to be in the limelight? Then let her be in the limelight, as long as she attracts Sir Guo Wu's attention, we can add fuel to the fire. Su Xiaoyan chuckled, her eyes filled with jealousy and resentment. Zi Qianqian pondered for a moment, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. She did not answer Su Xiaoyan's question. But he didn't stop her. Su Xiaoyan understood that she was being used by Zi Qianqian again. He returned to his dormitory, dormitory number 1. Yiqing Luo and Zi Qianqian coincidentally walked towards the same room. Zi Qianqian's footsteps halted as he recalled that his room had been forcefully occupied by Yiqing Luo. Recalling the director's attitude towards Yiqing Luo earlier, Zi Qianqian knew very well that if she insisted on getting the headmaster to step in, it would only make the headmaster hate her. For a room, it's not worth it. Zi Qianqian snorted coldly, turned around, and walked to another room. Yiqing Luo sneered as she returned to her room. Entering South Waves continent for the first time, Yiqing Luo was prepared to take some time to investigate the general situation of South Waves continent. Fortunately, Peach was also chosen by the dean this time. Earlier on the way back to the academy, Yiqing Luo had already asked Peach to get her Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group to give her a rough map of the South continent. The feeling of being summoned by Chi-Chi. She was very interested. Following Guo Wu's training was a total of 7 days. Including the competition between the academy students, it would take at least 10 days to half a month. Chapter 1405. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. Her gaze congealed towards a spot on the roof as she asked in a low voice, "Wind, are you there?" A gust of hurricane struck. She saw a young man dressed in black standing in the middle of the room. That immature face, icy cold expression, and his voice was emotionless, "Miss Yi." Ever since that snitch incident, Wind's heart had gradually confirmed Yiqing Luo's existence. He was also willing to stay by Yiqing Luo's side, protecting her in secret. Although Wind had not directly addressed Yiqing Luo as mistress of the imperial palace, like Tang Beiyuan, but his attitude towards Yiqing Luo was obviously different from before. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, asking him to come over. Wind hesitated for a moment, but still went nearer. A pair of eyes didn't dare to look at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she asked in a low voice, "Have you been inquiring about the imperial palace these few days?" Wind shook his head, "I've been ordered to protect Miss Yi, not leaving her side." "You don't know about the imperial palace's current situation?" Yiqing Luo frowned slightly, thinking that she could find out some news about Dmo Xian from Wind. Wind shook his head again. As he shook, he seemed to have understood something. "If Miss Yi wants to know about the Overlord situation, you can ask him personally." Dmo Xian had already activated the telepathic link between the Profound Dragon Ring and the Profound Phoenix Ring. As long as Yiqing Luo wanted, she could contact the Overlord Dmo Xian anytime. Why was there a need to specially find him to inquire about the Overlord's news? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips, "I don't want to disturb him intentionally." At this juncture, Dmo Xian must be busy with the Imperial Palace's matters. The reason why the Imperial Palace was involved with the Dark Forces. The main reason was because of her. Dmo Xian went to destroy Wolf Saint's forces because of her. After this confrontation with the Dark Forces, the Dark Forces had indeed suffered a heavy blow. But, Yiqing Luo was very clear. The Dark Forces would absolutely not let this matter rest. The Imperial Palace must have suffered a heavy blow in this confrontation. If she was concerned about Dmo Xian through the Profound Phoenix Ring, she was afraid. She would not be able to control herself and wanted to see him. Hearing his voice, she wanted to see him. She wanted him to hold her in his arms and feel his warmth. She did not want to become Dmo Xian's burden. She didn't wish for Dmo Xian to hurt the hearts of the brothers in the imperial palace because of her. At this moment, what the imperial palace needed the most was Dmo Xian to hold the fort. Wind fell silent. He could tell that Yiqing Luo was sincerely thinking for Dmo Xian. He didn't approve of Yiqing Luo contacting the overlord under such circumstances. He believed it. Based on the D Zun's personality, he would absolutely abandon the mess in the imperial palace and run over to meet Yiqing Luo. It was right for Yiqing Luo not to contact the overlord first. Ah Feng. Yiqing Luo suddenly smiled and changed the topic. Actually, I want to ask you for a favor. Wind immediately regained his senses as he looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. Tomorrow, I'm going to participate in the academy's training. It will last for 7 days. Yiqing Luo summoned Qi from the pet space. If it's convenient, can you help me to search for a place and remember the map for me? Where? Ah Feng hesitated for a moment and asked, You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.